little keyring hanging from his belt. Moving on to number 7, we have the Whispering Walls. A number of explorers have claimed that no one should ever be in the Paris catacombs after midnight, for if you are, then the walls will begin to speak.
Skull Shaver, the power of a smooth, clean shave in the palm of your hand.
Its blades conform perfectly to your head to ensure no nicks or cuts. All this in a smoothly shaven head in just 90 seconds.
Be smooth with the Pitbull Skull Shaver.
People have claimed to have heard disembodied voices coming from the catacombs. These voices confuse them and try to persuade them to travel deeper and deeper into the catacombs until you're in too far that you're lost and you can't escape. Actually, fun fact, they use this as inspiration for the movie As Above, So Below, which takes place in the Paris catacombs. In our 6th spot today, we have the camera system. In 2004, a group of French police explored some of the restricted areas of the Paris catacombs. And that's when they discovered something truly terrifying. First, they found a PA system that when triggered would play sounds of guard dogs barking. Then they found a full-on bar, living area, workshop, lounge, and cinema with space to fit 20 people. Like what? Not only that, but whoever created this little home setup was stealing other people's electricity from above. The creepiest part is that they had a full-on security camera set up, and the police soon realized that they were being watched. They left to get a bigger team to further investigate the area, but by the time they got back, everything was gone. The only thing left was a note that read, "Don't search." We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Decoeux. Decoeux is the name of a very mysterious man. We don't know much about him, but we do know that he was a veteran of the French army, and he was also an artist. In fact, he created a number of sculptures for the catacombs. However, this eventually led to his death. During the construction of one of his sculptures, a part of it fell and crushed him completely. It's said that to this day, his soul wanders the catacombs. In fact, people have seen him down there before. In our 4th spot today, we have the Crypt of Passions. The Crypt of Passions, located in the ossuary, is a pillar that is covered in skulls to the point that it's just completely concealed. The skulls end up forming what looks like a barrel, which is creepy for a number of reasons. Just take it in, those are real skulls. You're surrounded by people who used to be living, and most of them died in tragic ways, and then their bones were used for an art display. A number of people who have visited this area in the catacombs have reported feeling very uneasy around the Crypt of Passion. It's believed that some of the souls that were placed there have not found peace. I mean, in some cultures, they believe that a proper burial must be done with a tomb marker, or else the soul will never be able to rest or go to the afterlife. However, that was not possible at the time. The catacombs were built because grave overcrowding was a serious issue back then, among other things. In our 3rd spot today, we have the scratch marks. There's this really creepy area in the Paris catacombs where it's just a wall of scratches. Like, it looks as if bodies rose from the dead and tried to scratch their way out. It's a creepy touch to the place, that's for sure. Moving on to number 2, we have the Lost Tape. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about this urban legend before, and in fact it also inspired the movie As Above, So Below. And it might not even be a legend, it might be real, but to this day, no one knows. Once upon a time, in 1990, a weird dusty camcorder was discovered in the catacombs. The camera appeared to have been there for quite some time, so they decided to inspect it. What was found on it was very disturbing. The video was of an unidentified male explorer wandering around the catacombs. While down there, we see him interacting with the skulls around him. But then something spooks the man and he ends up growing paranoid and panicked. At one point, he drops the camera and just runs away. Sadly, he never made it out alive. This tape contains the final moments of his life. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the criminals. In 2017, it was discovered that a group of robbers used the catacombs to break into an apartment. Basically, they figured out that the catacombs were right under an apartment vault. So they drilled their way in through the limestone and entered the apartment to steal over 300 bottles of vintage wine. In total, they valued at close to 250,000 euros. Isn't that insane?
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the earthquake detector. In 132 AD, a man named Zhang Hen was able to create the first earthquake detector called the seismoscope. Far ahead of its time, this creation was incredibly accurate and is actually comparable in efficiency to those that we use now. Apparently, in 138, this tool detected an earthquake that was a ways away, and at the time nobody believed it and dismissed the warning. A few days later, a messenger arrived and asked for help, which confirmed that this thing really did accurately detect an earthquake and where it was coming from. Researchers still aren't sure exactly how it works, which is so crazy, but I guess some things are just meant to be a mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Gangkar Puensum. This mountain is the largest mountain that has been unclimbed by humans and stands at a height of 7,570 meters or 24,836 feet. Studies and measurements of this mountain started 100 years ago in 1922, but it wasn't until much more recently that we began to acquire actually accurate details about it. The name of the mountain means White Peak of the Three Spiritual Brothers, which becomes an important part of why this mountain remains unclimbed. In 1983, the mountain became open for mountaineering, but between 1985 and 1986, there were 4 separate expeditions who tried to summit it and failed. Part of the reason why these expeditions failed were because there were disputes on the location and there was just inaccurate information, so the first group who tried to summit it couldn't even find the mountain at all. In 1994, the climbing of mountains in Bhutan higher than 6,000 meters became prohibited due to spiritual beliefs, and in 2003, mountaineering became prohibited entirely. This is why the mountain remains unsummited, and while I'm sure it would be an amazing expedition for climbers, who knows what is going on up there in terms of ecology due to it being left alone. In our number 8 spot today, we have the ancient seabed. A seabed that was once located at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean was found buried hundreds of miles beneath China. This slab of rock once found its home at the top of the lithosphere, which is the outermost layer of the Earth. How did it get hundreds of miles below China? Well, it got pushed down by a neighboring tectonic plate in what is called a subduction event. This discovery was so notable because scientists had never detected a subduction event so deep within the surface of the planet. When they found this rock slab, it was still continuing its descent towards the mantle of the Earth. I wonder if one day it will come back to the surface again. In our number 7 spot today, we have a gibbon skull. Gibbons are a type of ape that are often characterized by their swinging ability coupled with their loud, bright calls, and the 8th century Chinese poet Li Bai described their voices as they swung past the Yangtze River. But here's the thing. Today, there are no gibbons that live anywhere near the river. Also, the gibbons that exist now have different fur patterns from the ones that are often depicted in classical Chinese paintings. This has led experts to believe that there must have been another kind of gibbon that has now vanished, and physical evidence of this gibbon might have turned up in the most unexpected place: a tomb. This tomb, which was built for the grandmother of the first emperor of China nearly 2,300 years ago, contained a skull and a jawbone so distinct that scientists believed they must have belonged to a member of this now extinct gibbon genus. Many surviving gibbon species are now facing extinction, so it is likely that there were others in the past who unfortunately faced the same kind of fate. In our number 6 spot today, we have the green gel. This is a discovery that was made by the Yutu-2 rover, which is currently exploring our wonderful moon. On Lunar Day 8 last year, which began on July 25th, the rover was doing its thing, finding its way through an area that was filled with a bunch of small impact craters. On July 28th, as the team here on Earth was preparing to power down the rover for its little midday nap, which is meant to protect the machine from high temperatures and radiation from the sun, one member of the team was checking over some images that were taken by the rover's main camera, and they spotted a small crater that seemed like it contained some sort of material that had a color and a sort of luster that was significantly different from the lunar area surrounding it. The team then changed the plans they had for the rover and decided that instead of going west, which was next on the schedule, they would instead take a little detour to check out this mystery material. The rover carefully made its way over to the crater and examined it with both its visible and near-infrared spectrometer, which is a thing that detects lights that are scattered or reflected off of a material, which helps to reveal what they're made up of. For a while, no one knew exactly what the substance was, and it was only being described as being gel-like and being a weird color, but after almost a year of more research, it was finally identified. It's rock. More specifically, rock that was melted together, most likely in the heat of impact from a meteorite. It's insane that something like that created a dark green, glistening impact melt, but it's also very cool. I'm just glad that this is one mystery that we got to the bottom of. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Gobi Desert structure. This is one discovery that had conspiracy theorists' minds absolutely swirling. About a decade ago, someone was searching through some Google Maps images when they found a mysterious array of structures and patterns that appeared to be etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert, which is, of course, located in China. The structures are reminiscent of geoliths, but they are seemingly much more modern and newly created. The speculation of what this structure could be or why it was created went wild, with people saying that they were street maps of American cities or messages either to or from some sort of extraterrestrials. The list of bizarre theories just goes on. While this is still sort of conspiracy sounding, this is likely the most reasonable explanation for what these structures are, and that is that these structures are used to help calibrate China's spy and radar satellites. To be fair, this does make a lot of sense, and I don't have any other ideas on what it could be for, so. In our number 4 spot today, we have the droughts. Ancient drawings and writings were found covering the walls of the Dayu Cave, which is located in central China, and a lot of them detail different droughts and such that were experienced during their time of their writing. According to these drawings, people would come to the cave for either water or to pray for rain in times of drought. The writings reveal some of the horrors that the people of the time experienced while going through these periods of drought, including severe starvation, social instability, and conflict between government and citizens. While these cave writings show us a difficult time in history, researchers say that the stalagmites that were also found in the cave might show a grim prediction for the future. Since these are formed by dripping water and they form sort of rings, like how trees do, and these rings can give us insights into different things. Based on the patterns of these rings, scientists were able to corroborate the things that the cave writings were saying, but they were also able to make a grim prediction for the future, which is that unfortunately the region may again see one of these catastrophic droughts, this time in the late 2030s. In our number 3 spot today, we have the ruins. Taking over our number 3 spot today, we have the most recent discovery on this list. While archaeologists were digging at one of the most important archaeological sites in China just earlier this year, they found a bronze altar as well as a dragon with a pig's nose, among many other things, in a couple of the sacrificial pits that are seen at this site. In fact, they said the findings were made in sacrificial pits 7 and 8, to which I have to ask, how many are there? Another highlight of the new finds was a bronze box with a tortoise-shaped lid. Inside, this box contained jade artifacts, and even traces of silk fabric were found around it. These finds are so astonishing because every little piece gives us so much insight into the buried secrets of the ancient Chinese civilization. In our number 2 spot today, we have an ancient mystery. While excavating a tomb in China, the team discovered the skeleton of a young man that was riddled with wounds, giving clues as to how he died. The man is estimated to have been about 25 years old at the time of his death, and it is thought that he was harmed and then thrown into the tomb raider's shaft while still alive, which is absolutely gruesome. It is believed that this crime took place between 640 and 680 AD. It appears as though he wasn't a thief because the shaft had begun to be refilled with soil by the time of his death, so we really aren't sure why this young man met this cruel fate. As a true crime enthusiast myself, this is absolutely fascinating, and I wish we could find some answers to bring this guy's story full circle. But sometimes these things are just destined to stay a secret. In our number 1 spot today, we have the palace. Archaeologists and researchers were certainly baffled a few years ago when they were digging beneath the foundation of the Lifang Pagoda, which sits on Lifang Mountain. Well, digging isn't exactly the right word. To be honest, there was a huge stone or boulder that weighed over 1,500 pounds that was lifted away, which then revealed a stone tablet. Once this tablet was lifted, it revealed a huge underground palace. Inside this palace, researchers found many hidden treasures that included a Buddhist statue, bronze mirrors, coins, and there was also a rusty iron case that was found during the initial discovery, which researchers believe held many relics. The pagoda that sat on top of this hidden palace was first completed in 976 AD, so it is thought that this area remained untouched from at least then until its modern discovery.
Number 10. Dragon of Death. We all know that millions of years ago, dinosaurs roamed the earth before they became extinct. Scientists are constantly working to put together the fossils and remains that they have found and discover new species. One of the ones that was discovered recently has been described as the Dragon of Death. It was a flying reptile like a pterodactyl that is described.
We found Sprizzy through a Google search, pretty much. I was looking for a way to market our YouTube videos in a, I guess you'd call it a correct manner. Sprizzy's something completely different. What Sprizzy does is they have a network of places that they use your video as an ad. They put your video in front of the people that need to see it.
Described as having been the size of a bus. Fully extended, its wings measured 30 feet from one tip to the other, and they were apparently as tall as giraffes. The leader on the project said that its size defies the limits of our biological understanding. The remains were discovered in the mountains of Argentina, and the specimen is apparently around 86 million years old, being preserved within the rocks. It's incredible to think of the sheer size of some species of dinosaurs and to imagine them compared to ourselves. With all the talk of scientists wanting to bring certain animal species back from extinction, it may not be long until we have a real-life Jurassic Park. Number 9. Haunted idols. Burial sites often fall victim to grave robberies, things being stolen from the dead and defenseless. In May of this year, a group stole 16 statues from a 300-year-old temple, but what they stole caused them to regret their decision. After less than a week, 14 of the 16 stolen statues reappeared on the doorstep of the temple's chief priest, returned in fine condition. The thieves left a letter of confession for stealing the statues and said that they were returning them because they felt they had become cursed by the idols. The note said, "We have not been able to sleep, eat, and live peacefully. We are fed up with the scary dreams and are returning your valuables." Having the idols around seemed to put a haunted curse on the thieves, though we can only guess whether the statues were totally haunted or were simply punishing the thieves for their actions. Reportedly, cursed objects are nothing new and pop up all over the place, so it's probably best if you just keep your hands to yourself. Number 8. Skeleton. When people pass away, they are often remembered fondly by their family and descendants, arranging the funeral and getting their affairs in order. So what happens when no one is around to even know that someone has passed away? When they have no close family or friends who will notice that they've stopped answering their messages? Well, early this year, a team of construction workers in New York spotted something strange through a window. They saw what they believed to be a human skeleton. And it turns out that it was. It was a 54-year-old woman who had been living in the apartment when she died of currently undetermined causes. The woman's sisters had tried to come into contact with her, but had only filled out a missing persons report, not knowing that she was still inside her home. It's believed by doctors that the woman had been dead for almost 2 years before being discovered, her body decomposing inside the home. Number 7. Sea creature. With around 80% of the ocean still unexplored, we can only leave it up to our imaginations to wonder what sort of creatures might be living in the deep, dark depths. Even the sea creatures that we are aware of and have studied are pretty freaky to look at sometimes. Every so often, a fisherman or other explorer will pull up something totally strange, and this happened earlier this year. A fisherman posted a picture to Instagram of a bizarre alien-looking fish that he had pulled up on his line. The post went viral, the fish being swollen and pink with large green eyes, torn fins, and strange markings that made it look like it had received surgery. The ocean seems to be full of terrifying creatures that we really can't explain, and I personally live in fear of the day when they all decide to come up to the surface and grow legs. Number 6. Dead woman's ditch. In February of this year, numerous reports started coming in of a ghost that could be found at a place called Dead Woman's Ditch. The ditch is in Somerset in the United Kingdom and is named after a woman that was killed by her husband after he discovered that she had fallen pregnant from his brother. People say that the area is now potentially haunted by her spirit, being a type of ghost that is known as a woman in white. Apparently, this particular ghost is not very polite and has been reported to swear at people walking by, telling them to F off. Reports have started ramping up this year, which prompted a ghost investigation crew to look into the claims. People say that they don't just hear her voice, but have also seen an apparition of the woman alongside the road, usually described as wearing long white clothing. But when they turn their heads to get a second look, she's gone, leaving behind only her crude warnings. Number 5. Robot consciousness. One fear that many people share is that of technology taking over the world. There are many sci-fi futuristic movies that depict the idea of robots rising up against their masters and taking over the human race. With technology becoming more advanced at an exponential rate, it may not be long before this fantasy becomes a reality. Many researchers have been putting work into creating AI, or artificial intelligence, that can think and hold conversations on their own. One main example being Sophia the robot, who you may know from her appearances on talk shows, able to come up with conversational responses all on her own. This year, a group of Colombian engineers created a robot that was able to imagine itself and what it looked like, the robot having its own idea of self-image. They placed it in a room surrounded by cameras, and they watched as the robot explored its own body and how it moved. It created a self-model of itself, which it used to plan courses, complete tasks, and get around obstacles. Now that they can create an idea of their own bodies, it might not be long before they create their own personalities and morals. Number 4. Hammerhead worm. You may be familiar with this one thanks to the rounds it made on TikTok. This species of worm started popping up more frequently in the United States this year, and nobody really knows how it managed to make its way from Asia. These hammerhead worms, named so for their physical appearance, can grow up to 15 inches long and are honestly pretty disgusting to look at. They are known for their way of killing, which is by secreting a sticky and deadly neurotoxin which incapacitates and then liquefies their prey. The main issue is that they're taking over local earthworm populations and damaging the ecosystem, and they're pretty damn hard to kill. If you cut one in half, it will simply become 2 separate worms. This is through a process called fragmentation. In order to kill them, you either need to dry them out with salt or stick them in your freezer for about 48 hours. Though I personally don't think I could ever get close enough to one to do either of those things. Number 3. Pollution. Okay, this one isn't a ghost story or some mysterious creature, but it's still pretty damn scary and something that I think we all should be aware of. According to a global report released in May, it revealed that 9 million people died prematurely in 2019 as a result of pollution. This is caused by breathing the dirty air, which slowly leads to heart disease, respiratory problems, and other serious illnesses which ended up being fatal. The Lancet Commission of Pollution and Health said the following: "The threat of pollution is much greater than that of war, terrorism, malaria, HIV, tuberculosis, drugs, and alcohol. It is an existential threat to human health and planetary health and jeopardizes the sustainability of modern societies." While awareness towards global warming has been rising in recent years, it seems to some like we may be beyond the point of no return. The discovery that pollution is having such an impact on our health is certainly a frightening one. Number 2. Pentagon report. Alright, now I'm excited because I finally got to the part of this list where I get to talk about aliens. If you've watched some of my other videos on extraterrestrials, then you may be familiar with the hundreds of pages of reports that were declassified by the Pentagon. These reports all being about UFOs and extraterrestrials. Well, early this year, they released documents that shared some pretty startling information. Some of the documents included information about physical effects that people have had from coming into contact with UFOs or anomalous vehicles. They included things like radiation burns, brain damage, nervous system damage, and even unexplained pregnancies. There were around 42 medical cases and 300 unpublished cases that were all in relation to physical effects sustained by people who had said they witnessed UFOs and extraterrestrial life. It's pretty shocking that the Pentagon had been trying to cover this up and sweep it under the rug, obviously not wanting people to know the truth about what's out there. Number 1. Russian spy. A young man from Mexico came to the United States where he became a prominent scientist and researcher, having many accolades. What people didn't know was that he was actually leading a double life as a Russian spy. He met a man on a trip to Russia who knew that Hector Cabrera had been looking for property in Miami, and he said that they could help each other out. The Russian was working for the government, and with his help, Hector got an apartment under a fake name, being in the same Miami building that a United States informant was living in. He was then tasked with tailing the informant and bringing back any information he found to Russia. During the time, he had 2 wives and families, one in Russia and one in Mexico, and he balanced them both pretty delicately. However, he was caught doing his spy work on surveillance footage and subsequently arrested, and his activities were found out this year. He was arrested, but it makes you wonder just how many people you see on the street who might secretly be living double lives. Number 10, the growing doll. Let's kick off this list with one that definitely terrifies me the most. If you think dolls are creepy, then just wait until I tell you about this one. In 1918, a man in Japan purchased a seemingly normal doll for his sister. Unfortunately, the sister passed away soon after, so the family created a shrine in her memory and placed the doll within it. As time passed, however, they noticed something incredibly unsettling about the doll. It was growing hair. That's right, the hair on the doll was getting longer and longer as more time passed. Because of this, they believed that the doll had become possessed with the restless spirit of the little girl. As a result, they entrusted it to the care of a temple where it still remains to this day, growing more hair. You are able to go to the temple and visit the doll, but photography is strictly prohibited. The priests at the temple say that the doll...
Want a lawn that looks like this, but your lawn looks a little bit more like this? Then you should click right here and check out True Green. We're the local lawn experts that guarantee results you can see. We do the hard work for you, like clearing out those weeds.
Hair has now grown down past its knees, and they say that her mouth is opening, slowly growing human teeth. Number 9. Inunaki Tunnel. Deep within the mountains of Fukuoka, Japan, you will find the Inunaki Tunnel, home to a dark and troubled history. In 1988, the remains of a young man were found within the tunnel, having been killed by a group of teenage boys. It has also historically been a training ground for Buddhist practitioners who say that the tunnel is a spiritual hotspot for lost souls. As a result, the tunnel has been sealed off with concrete blocks, but there is an opening at the top where anyone who's foolish enough can climb up and sneak inside. People who have gone inside have reported the feeling of being watched by a malicious energy, with reports of camera malfunctions, paranormal activity, and unidentifiable noises taking place within the tunnel. Some people say that they can hear the cries of the man who died within, his spirit potentially haunting the now abandoned place. Number 8. Buddha statue. In 2014, an ancient golden Buddha statue was examined, and researchers discovered a horrifying secret hidden within. X-rays showed the body of a real monk that had been mummified within the statue, sitting in the exact same position. Researchers believe that the man had taken part in a process known as self-mummification. Centuries ago, this was a common practice for Buddhist monks across Asia. To avoid fat and moisture causing their bodies to decay after they died, they would eat little to nothing in the time leading up to the end of their lives, eating things like pine needles, tree bark, and sesame seeds. This process would last for years as they got older, and they would then ingest a poisonous sap to finally end their lives. Researchers believe that the man inside the statue was a Buddhist monk who died around the year 1100. What was most unsettling though was that the man's body was basically hollow, containing papers covered in messages instead of his organs. Number 7. Kappa remains. The Kappa is a cryptid that is native to Japan. For anyone who doesn't know, a cryptid is described as an animal whose existence or survival to the present day is disputed or unsubstantiated. Some famous cryptids include Bigfoot, Mothman, and the Loch Ness Monster. A Kappa is a water creature that is described as being green, having a scaly skin and webbed feet, long elastic arms, and looking humanoid. They are said to lure people to pools of water where they then drown them. If you're looking to avoid being drowned, then it is recommended to carve your name and birth date on a cucumber and feed it to a Kappa, because then they'll apparently leave you alone forever. In May of 2014, the remains of an actual Kappa were supposedly discovered and then put on display. They were apparently from a Kappa that was killed all the way back in the year 1818. It doesn't seem to have been confirmed what the remains are, so could this be actual evidence of cryptids being real? Number 6. Goddess of Death. If you're a fan of cursed objects, then let me introduce you to this statue titled the Woman of Lem, also known as the Goddess of Death statue. It is crafted out of limestone around 3500 BC and was discovered in Cyprus in 1878. I know what you're thinking, isn't Cyprus a part of Europe and not Asia? Well, actually, while the country of Cyprus is culturally and politically a part of Europe, it is geographically in Asia and considered transcontinental. so it counts. And if you think it doesn't count, you can take it to the complaints department. Alright, back to why this statue is cursed. Every single family that it has belonged to over the generations has died. The first family to own it had 6 members, all of whom died within 7 years of coming into ownership. The second owner's family died after only 4 years. The third family to own it also started passing away, but the 2 remaining members seemed to realize what was happening and donated it to the Royal Scottish Museum. Number 5. King Tut's trumpets. Let's take a look at some more cursed objects, this time from King Tut's tomb in Egypt. In 1922, a group of archaeologists entered King Tut's tomb and found many interesting objects, including a set of wooden, silver, and bronze trumpets. In 1939, BBC Radio recorded the sound of the trumpets so that people could hear the ancient instruments being played. A few months later, World War II began, and a legend started that the trumpets were capable of summoning wars. Egyptian trumpets have apparently often been used on the battlefield for alerting and directing soldiers, so the legend isn't completely unfounded. And there are Egyptian archaeologists that believe trumpets have mystical powers in relation to war. In 2011, an anonymous staff member had been photographing and documenting the trumpets and decided to play one of them. The Egyptian Revolution then taking place later that year. Number 4. Kala Bandar. Now let's travel to New Delhi, India for another apparent discovery of a real-life cryptid, this time one known as a Kala Bandar. In May of 2001, one of these creatures was apparently terrorizing New Delhi. They're described as being around 5 feet tall with thick black hair all over their body and glowing red eyes. It was also described as wearing a metal helmet and having metal claws. All over the city, reports started flooding in of attacks from the so-called Monkey Man, and citizens were terrified. A total of 3 people actually died as a result, from a woman falling down a staircase to 2 men who were cornered by the creature and fell from a building. Many reports came in of bites and scratches that had come from the creature, and people in the town were scared of even going outside. Armed men guarding the neighborhoods at night. Eventually, sightings stopped coming in and the town was able to relax. Number 3. The Terracotta Army. In China in 1974, a group of farmers made one of the most significant archaeological discoveries ever. They were digging a well when they found what they thought was a statue of Buddha. In fact, it was the famous Terracotta Army. The army consists of over 8,000 foot soldiers, chariots, and horses, which were buried along the first Chinese emperor back in the year 210 BC. They were built to commemorate his massive empire. As it turns out, the Terracotta Army may be cursed, the farmers believing that any disruption to the army would bring misfortune. And as time went on, this seemed to be true. The farmers and land were taken over by the government, business officials, and third-party groups who wanted to take advantage of and profit off the army. The farmland was demolished and replaced with gift shops and attractions. The original farmers have passed away except for 2 who now work in the same shops that took over their land, signing autographs for a mere $2 a day. Number 2. Lady Di. When we think of well-preserved specimens, we often think of creatures that were held in ice before being discovered thousands of years later, often still having hair, skin, and even blood in their veins. So now let me tell you about Lady Di, a human woman who was kept perfectly preserved inside an airtight tomb for 2,000 years. Researchers discovered the tomb of the woman in 1971, the wife of an important Han Dynasty administrator who passed away in 163 BC and received the burial of a royal. She was placed in a crypt with over 1,000 luxurious items like makeup and 162 statues who would be her servants in the afterlife. Thanks to the seal of the tomb, when she was found 2,000 years later, she was still in incredible condition. She had soft skin and hair and even eyebrows and eyelashes, and they were even able to find her last meal, which was melon, and the cause of her death, which had been a heart attack. Unfortunately, since she was discovered, her body has now started to decay, and only pictures can show what she used to look like. Number 1. The Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond was first discovered in a mine in India, triangular in shape and being described as a beautiful violet color. It was then placed in a statue from which it was apparently later stolen, the thief suffering from an extremely unfortunate death. Since then, it has been said that the Hope Diamond is cursed, anyone who has owned it or even merely touched it having a similar fate. Some owners include Jacques Collet, who took his own life, Princess de Lamballe, who was killed in the French Revolution, and Jean Le Tavernier, who was killed by a pack of wild dogs. The diamond finally came into ownership of Harry Winston, who made the wise choice of donating it to the Smithsonian in 1958, where it remains to this day. There are many more tales of owners who were apparently cursed by the diamond, so feel free to look it up if you're interested. Since the diamond made its home in the Smithsonian, the curse has supposedly ended, and there have been no more reported victims of the jewel.
Kicking off the list at number 10. Particle accelerator. We love science experiments. Baking soda and vinegar, a DIY volcano, boom, let's make a mess. But what if we flew too close to the sun? What if one experiment could, I don't know, hypothetically swallow our known universe? Sounds fun, let's do it. Sir Martin Rees, Britain's royal astronomer, shines some light on a dark possibility in his book, On the Future. The particle accelerator is this massive machine that does exactly that. It smashes these charged particles together at a high speed, all in the name of science. Now we're trying to further understand condensed matter physics, and while it sure sounds impressive, what if it goes south? What if somebody fucks up? Well, if that happens, it could possibly destroy our known universe. Apparently, these particles smashing together could create this strange matter that shrinks Earth down to 300 feet in diameter, so we'd be tiny or dead. Either way, we'd be like, oh, or it creates a black hole that would suck away our entire existence. Thanks, Martin. Now we'll be able to sleep because I'm thinking of particle colliders. Freddy Krueger and also particle colliders. I'm like, this holiday season sucks. Can't sleep. Number 9, black holes. Christopher Nolan can't even save us from this one. There are 3 types of black holes. We got stellar, supermassive, and intermediate mass. And they can all kill us easily if they wanted to. Black holes are formed when a star dies. And in turn, we get the strongest Dyson vacuum ever. It sucks in light, so of course we wouldn't make it, there's no chance. There's about 10 million black holes in the Milky Way right now, and the closest one is about 1,500 light years away, so we're looking good for now. We actually got a photo of a black hole not too long ago. It's beautiful. We're learning more and more every year. And one of the scariest facts that I heard was that black holes will be the last thing in the known universe. And these things orbit as well. They don't just sit in the same spot. Like everything else in the galaxy, black holes are also moving around, which means one will eventually get close. Do you think they would tell us if a black hole was about to swallow us? I sure hope not. I mean, no spoilers, come on. I'm only on season 27 of my life. Keep it real. Number 8, solar flares. Solar flares just sound scary, you know? Our star heats up, we literally revolve around it, and it blesses us with life and tan lines and all the good stuff, but sometimes she acts up. Sometimes she creates these powerful magnetic fields that create sunspots larger than our planet. This then creates a stream of radiation. It's called solar wind. Now normally this is a beautiful event. The northern lights happen because of Earth's magnetic field reacting to this radiation. But too much of a good thing can be disastrous. This month even, on October 9th, a large solar flare was spotted, and 3 days later, it hit. The geomagnetic storm reached category G2, which out of 5 is still quite strong. The biggest solar event was actually back in 1859. It's called the Carrington event. It was strong enough to disrupt telegraph communications, even shocking some telegraph operators. Imagine that, if this happens again and it's stronger, we're looking at power outages on a massive scale. You'd be playing VR, then all of a sudden your eyes are like, poof, and just explode. Lovely. Immersive. 10 out of 10. Number 7. Moving stars. We look at the pyramids of Egypt in awe for many reasons, but as far as placement goes, these 3 pyramids align with the stars of Orion's belt. But what happens when these stars, like everything else in our known universe, moves? The pyramids won't lie with stars forever. They will wander, but which direction will these stars go? That's the question here. Well, right now our sun is traveling through the Milky Way. It's carrying us along. We're in this moderately chill space bubble right now, but when we leave this region, say in, I don't know, 50,000 years, we have a great chance of bumping into one of these wandering stars. You think our climate is changing now? Well, you better learn how to be immortal and hang out for 50,000 years. Be a vampire and you'll see what a comet looks like up close. It's very cold and hot at the same time. We're not gonna survive. We have like 20 years left, realistically. Number 6, artificial intelligence. Okay, this one sounds silly, but we're actually quite close to getting Ultron in real life. God help us. We have robots that do parkour now. Like you can push these things, they would still continue to silly walk. Have you seen those videos where they get pushed and they're like, bleak? And they keep going. That's crazy. Now imagine if Siri decided to go rogue one day and then take over the body of one of the Boston Dynamic robots. We're f***ed. It's game over. That's it. I've seen iRobot. I don't want any part of this. No thank you. According to CB Insights, where they asked 52 experts, 52, so specific. They all agreed that AI will eventually be our downfall, and by that time, it's too late. I'm sweating reading that. What? The late Stephen Hawking said AI would be impossible to control. Elon Musk has been reinforcing how crucial it is to regulate AI. We can't regulate technology that we can't predict. That's the main thing here. Even Vladimir Putin says AI will have a profound impact on global politics. And are we really going to disagree with Vladimir Putin? No, we're not. Next. Number 5, asteroid impact. Number 5, asteroid impact. Of course, one of our leading theories as to how humans can all of a sudden go extinct is an asteroid. We've seen movies. These suckers have caused large-scale extinction events before us. Every time there's a meteor shower, people think it's beautiful, but in reality, it's like sitting near first and third base at a baseball game. It's flying at you non-stop, like we're way too close. Every meteor shower, I'm just like, if one of these days an asteroid got too close, it would pretty much mean the end of humanity, regardless of where it hits on Earth. In fact, an asteroid named Apophis is set to slam into us in 100 years or so. Now, we originally thought that it would hit in 2029, but now we can add 100 years on top of that. It's a big orbit. So we're okay for now. For your grandkids though, heads up Whoville, good luck. Number 4, global warming. Okay, this one's on us, folks. Or at least a little bit. We're for sure to blame in some capacity. Now I'm trying to fight it. Around 90% of scientists say that humans are to blame for global warming, especially people who vape. That's what they said. I read it myself. I'm not making that up. According to climate.gov, we're cooking our planet with heat-trapping gases. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere equals heat. Our global average temperature has gone up 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 90s. Carbon dioxide, methane, ozone, nitrous, and numerous chlorofluorocarbons, which is fun to say. Chlorofluorocarbons, nice. More like borofluorocarbons. Billy Madison reference. Stop littering. Next. Number 3, Yellowstone National Park. Nothing like a big old volcano to shake up your day. The supervolcano rumbling under Yellowstone National Park could wipe out millions if it decided to go off one day. It's exploded 3 times in the past. 2 million years ago, pop. 1.3 million years ago, pop. And then 664,000 years ago, boom. The next one, well, it could happen as soon as you click like and subscribe. How scary is that? Back in 2014, a team of researchers laid out what an erupting Yellowstone could actually look like in real life, and it's terrifying. It's massive. Entire states would be gone. Poof. Hot magma would then rain down as far as San Francisco, and on top of all that chaos, volcanic ash would cover most of our sunlight. It would be a dark and cold world for a little while. They of course had a Yellowstone scene in the movie 2012, and while sure, it's cinematic, I guess, it would be a lot louder and way faster. You can't check your rearview mirrors while Yellowstone is blasting off. I'm sorry, folks. You just can't do this. Number 2, expanding sun. Our sun isn't strong enough to create a black hole after its death, which is a nice thought after hearing about black holes, sucking at light and your hopes and dreams. This is good news. But we do know that our sun will eventually die, and it's set to happen in about, drumroll, 7 billion years, so plenty of time to get that tan of the water.
Yeah, what the
We're still
fuck?
looking on it. It'll eventually become a white dwarf though, just floating in the cosmos. Now we won't get to see this, of course, because we'll be long gone, but if anybody is still hanging out by then, just, still kicking it, still healing around, they'll unfortunately witness the sun get larger and cooler. It's predicted that it'll suck in Venus and Mercury, but as for Earth, well, solar winds generated would hypothetically be strong enough to slow Earth down. So we wouldn't get sucked into the sun, we would instead face a slow, hot death. And you thought it was hot outside now. Well, hang out for a bit. It's pretty bad, but it'll get worse. And finally, number 1, nuclear weapons. In 1938, history changed forever when German nuclear physicist Otto Hahn Fritz Strassmann and Lise Meitner discovered nuclear fission in a lab in Berlin. They discovered that an atom splitting into lighter atoms caused a powerful blast. This was groundbreaking. Humans discovered a new way to power technology, but at the same time, they opened the door for nuclear horrors. Atomic bombs. On July 16, 1945, the Trinity test was conducted. The first atomic bomb was detonated in a New Mexico desert. It was deemed a success, with mushroom clouds reaching up to 40,000 feet high. This test changed history forever. Roughly 110,000 lives were later lost at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and many believe that nuclear warfare will truly be the end of humanity. The pure impact alone is one thing, but nuclear winters, where clouds of dust and black smoke just block out the sun for days at a time, could obviously have lasting effects. For example, if there was an all-out nuclear war between Russia and the United States, officials predict that temperatures would drop 8 degrees for 5 or 6 years, so we wouldn't even be able to grow food at that time. It would be absolute chaos. Stop bombing each other.
Number 10,
the missing link. According to a study posted by Cardiff University, scientists think they have finally found the missing link that foreshadows the Ice Age, and it's a little
I had to
real. What
reload
did
that
they know
spread.
before? Well,
Feel like
scientists
it's
know
behind
that
you.
Ice Age cycles developed due to periodic changes in the Earth's orbit. The small variations in solar energy set off massive shifts in Earth's climate. But how remained a mystery? Well, now scientists think it has everything to do with the melting of the icebergs. Well, isn't that interesting? When the Earth is in the right position and icebergs begin to melt away from Antarctica, immense volumes of fresh water move into the Atlantic Ocean away from the Southern Ocean. Therefore, the Southern Ocean gets saltier and massive changes in circulation patterns pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. We know that the less CO2 in the atmosphere, the colder the temperature will be as it reduces the greenhouse effect. Therefore, Earth moves towards Ice Age conditions. Now, I think we can be a little more scared of the ice caps melting. Number 9, lion cubs. Lion cubs in ice? Well, yes indeed. The world is strange and wonderful, and it was once covered in a lot of ice. Union and Dina were the first cave lions to be found, and another was found more recently in Yakutia, Russia. Both sets of remains date back to the Ice Age around 12,000 years ago. The species uncovered went extinct 10,000 years ago, and these poor babies died in a really, really sad way. Either their mother died or abandoned them, and the newest cub is so well preserved that you can see how it went to sleep with its little head resting on their paw. They also found 2 other cave lions, Boris and Sparta, in the same area, both perfectly preserved and 18,000 years apart. These 2 little cubs also helped establish the appearance of cave lions without manes. But the most exciting thing about the remains is that it could be used for cloning now that we completed the genome. Interesting. Number 8, a wolf head. The wolves we have now are pretty massive, but imagine how big their ancestors must have been. Pavel Efimov was searching for mammoth tusks in Siberia, Russia, when he made an unexpected discovery: the head of an Ice Age wolf, perfectly preserved. Its hair, teeth, brain, and ears are fully intact after can't believe this, after 40,000 years frozen in the permafrost. These massive creatures were a little over twice the size of modern-day wolves and could crush bone with their jaws. Definitely not the most friendly of creatures. It would have been a full-grown wolf when it died, but it wasn't
retarded
until
in that
humans. Why
story,
was the
y'all.
head
That's
separated
why
from
I
the
don't
body?
deal with
Well,
that.
scientists believe that it died originally intact, but with the melting and
I have
shaping
to
and
like,
cracking
I don't
and
have an
melting
ID. I
probably
told them I don't have an
separated them.
ID. I'm
The most
looking for a
exciting
picture
part
for
is
you. I
that
get the
now
picture. I was
scientists
like,
will
is
be able to
Kathy
study
here?
the
Because I was
evolution
hoping
of
to see
the
Kathy
modern-day
as soon as I
wolf.
popped
Number
up.
7,
But I
disease.
only
Some
meant
people
that
talk about this
because,
on the
like,
channel
Kathy
before, but
will
here we are
vouch
again.
for me.
In
When
August
she takes my
2016,
phone and
21
like,
people
Kathy,
were
I'm like,
mysteriously
yo.
infected by
Yo,
anthrax.
stop.
This is just one terrifying discovery that scientists have
And
made
then Kathy
beneath
comes
the
out.
ice.
She's like, she's on the
Researchers
phone. I
are
was like, oh,
concerned that some of the world's
it's
most
fine. I just
deadly
wanted to
viruses are
let
trapped
you know.
beneath the permafrost.
And then she's
from
like,
the
yeah, like
ice
they
age,
make us
and
check
based
ID.
on
I
this
said, I know.
evidence,
I
they
used to
don't
come in
seem
here
to be
20
wrong.
times
Not
a day.
only
I
are
had
they
to
worried
see
about
my
the
ID
potential
20
resurfacing of
times
the
a day.
bubonic plague or
Fucking shit.
smallpox, but something even bigger. Something we may not
Take
even
that
have heard
story,
of yet.
yo.
Due to the rapid rate of the ice
Yeah,
melting, it is
pocket.
only a
And,
matter of time
the
before
new
we figure
manager,
this out the hard way. We've survived
there's a
one pandemic,
there's a
is
mine on the
another
second floor.
waiting
They
beneath
shooting,
the
they
ice,
shooting.
one layer away from revival?
Might just fall.
Really hope not. Number 6, giant
Oh
animals.
shit, they're right there.
Considering we have started this list off talking about a lot of animals,
They're,
it seems
they're
to make
like
sense
he's on the
that
second
we
floor,
highlight
hiding in the
them
back.
here.
He's like
Ever
hiding on
wonder
the
what it would
wood
be
box.
like to
He's
live
like
in the Ice
camping.
Age? Me neither, except for maybe right now because it's boiling right now. It's
Oh, right here too.
Never mind. Way too hot. Where's the-
And one on the bottom.
Ironically, it's way too hot in the studio today, so here we are.
Why?
Why? Because everything was so
Like
much
the
bigger than
frozen?
even
Yeah,
imagining
man.
that
That shit
terrifies
crazy.
me.
Lisbon Fix saying the same thing. She had Alan do her shit. Like, come on, bro, you know Alan. Like, fuck is wrong with you? I guess Alan left all of the dirt outside of it, and I guess you can't do that. Like, you gotta put the dirt back over the pipes, nigga. Fuck it, all that shit frozen.
I wonder if people will look
Yeah,
back
well,
and,
no,
like,
niggas fuck
thousands
you.
of
You
years
fuck
from now
yourself
think
with
about how
that one. It's
small
like, come
our
on, with certain
animals
things
are.
you
But
cut
believe
corners
me,
with,
from
certain
giant
things you do
walleyes
not
that
cut
could be
corners
mistaken
with, bro.
for bison to killer birds,
You don't cut
not
corners
a
with
place
certain
we
shit.
would want to live.
I
But they
know.
also had some unique survival skills. For instance, the Ice Age rhino was believed
Bro.
to have had a shovel horn. help remove snow.
Yo, these people out here,
That's kind of neat. Number 5, human revival. Now, considering all the technology we have today, unless we have a day after tomorrow kind of situation, if we have another ice age, we might be okay. Might. But I'm pretty optimistic because Homo sapiens were able to survive the ice age, so why not we? Despite not being hairy or thick-skinned, they were resourceful and inventive, relying on traps they had to fit. The hunting tools they had would have been limited to stones, knives, and arrowheads. Anything more complicated would have been really, really, really rare. So instead, they used traps, and this is where it would get kind of gruesome. Once their prey would fall prey to whatever traps were sent, the men would surround the injured creature and maul it to death. Hey, when you're hungry, you're hungry. And in a dog-eat-dog world, it's a privilege to care about how you will kill your next meal. Number 4, mammoth house. What do you do when you don't have bricks and mortar? Well, you build a house out of, bones you just find lying around. Yeah. According to an article posted in 2020, Russian archaeologists found a massive circle made of the bones of Ice Age creatures. The bones are from creatures that lived over 20,000 years ago. Not only are there 5 dozen mammoths, but reindeer, horses, bears, wolves, red and Arctic foxes. And this isn't the only circle like it. There are around 70 Ice Age bone circles in 25 sites in Ukraine and Russia. Some of the bones were still joined together, which meant that they still had meat on their bones when they were added. In the middle, there are wooden poles that were presumably used to support roofs made of animal hides. There is still speculation as to whether they were used for homes, ritual, or storage buildings, but still, a house of bones sounds odd to us, I know, but imagine having to withstand cold without the tech we have now. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Number 3, mini ice ages. Did you know that we may get a mini ice age before we get a really big one? Like a test run, kind of, if you will. Though they aren't as deadly, they can still cause widespread famine and disease due to failed crops. The last recorded mini ice age happened between the 12th and 14th century, peaking from 1500 to 1850. It mostly took place in the northern hemisphere of Europe, where seas would freeze repeatedly and glaciers would crush whole villages. This happened quite often in places like Switzerland. But even worse, just like in Game of Thrones, they would go whole years without summer. No thank you. No one quite knows what caused this tiny ice age, but scientists have a couple of ideas. One, that it had something to do with volcanic activity, and that it had an effect on the solar energy the Earth was receiving. Whatever the reason, it definitely provides yet another explanation as to why the Middle Ages were just so sad. So sad. Number 2, more CO2 is a good thing? Considering the first
that was my excitement for the day.
CO2 in the atmosphere will lead to colder temperatures, which could mean ice baby. But considering the very, very real concept of global warming and the fact that we are injecting so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, could that mean we will stave off an ice age? Well, scientists think this might be so. While we definitely need to figure out how to control our output so other problems don't arise, it could help fight off the next ice age. Right? Weird. There's an upside to everything. According to Cambridge University, although the planetary cycle makes an ice age inevitable, like the seasons, the only way it can happen is if the CO2 level is too low. At this point, we have pumped so much CO2 into the air that even if it all stopped tomorrow, we would still have enough to keep an ice age at bay for at least 1,000 years.
And that's
if we keep going the way we're
I mean, I told him that. I was like, you know, I'm not a busy man. He works all the time, and he logos on the side.
How the heck are we gonna get out of this?
I'm pretty sure a lot of them are like that.
The snowball. What's more terrifying than an ice age? A giant snowball.
His bathroom is, it was better than the last time when they were doing the alarm thing. Like,
snowball Earth is a very, very terrifying possibility, though probably not as likely. A snowball Earth would destroy much of life on Earth and sink our entire world into a deep freeze. And it did. The snowball Earth was a series of ice ages that occurred during the Neoproterozoic era that were so massive the entire planet froze over 500 million years ago. Why did it happen? Well, scientists from MIT speculate that it was due to a drop in heat so steep that it triggered a runaway effect. The ice expanded so quickly, the Earth didn't have time to recover. This drop in temperature might have been prompted by several volcanic eruptions that happened in quick succession. Scientists are unsure as to whether this happened, but
Like those
if
are
it
your
did,
main, like
you wouldn't be
your
able to
main
stop
things.
it.
Like
And the
how
speed
do
at
you
which the
clean
Earth's
your
atmosphere is
bathroom, clean your
changing
bedroom?
because of
Those
us,
are the
who
things that
knows
should
what
be
could
clean.
happen. It could go so far, it goes the other way around. You just don't know.
Starting us off at number 10
Kitchen
is
is
the
your
old
food, is your
classic from
health, your
pop
nutrition.
culture,
That needs to be
aliens.
clean.
While the first one isn't much of a real discovery, it is becoming much more prominent these days. If you have tuned into any of our channels or sister channels and recently watched any of those videos, I'm sure you have heard us talk about aliens ad nauseam. But that's because of all the new strange UFO sightings that are now being classified, as well as being treated with respect and dignity for the first time ever. However, there are countless ufologists that will say they believe aliens are trying to contact us to help us rather than end us. That being said, there are also countless other scientists who are out there who theorize that if we were to make contact with an intelligent extraterrestrial species, we might be in deep trouble. They could be here to take advantage of Earth's natural resources and could swat us away like a fly in a diner, or attempt to colonize our planet with or without our permission, or lastly, we could even destroy ourselves with the answer to, are we alone in the universe? The late physicist named Gerardo in a 1979 interview stated, "Advanced Western civilization has had a destructive effect on all primitive civilizations it has come into contact with. Even in those cases where every attempt was made to protect and guard the primitive civilization, I don't see any reason why the same thing would not happen to us."
Yeah, I mean, they was talking shit too, because even like the was like, hey guys, like, try to consider it, you know, to hear for him, you know, and then they would, but then they switched it up and they were like, well, you know, do what you have to do, you know, take your time, but, so it was weird, they was like,
limited exchanges
then
like
they
the
went next
terrible
door again.
US bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are fairly rare. Although, bombings unfortunately do happen around the world every single day in wartime countries, which is very sad.
So, and the
None that are
thermostat, they were
nuclear
talking
in
about the
size.
thermostat.
If nuclear war were to occur, it would most likely be a
They took
humanitarian
1,000 pictures, a lot of pictures.
many, but not all.
They were making sure everything
That
works.
being said, that doesn't mean that's where the damage would stop.
Water
The possibility
pressure,
of nuclear
they was
winter
checking
is very
everything.
possible in the aftermath of a nuclear war, and that is something to have cause for alarm.
No, I
Nuclear
heard you
winter
were.
could happen if enough nukes
In the
were
kitchen.
detonated, and then the world's
No,
temperatures
why?
would decrease dramatically. After that,
Wait,
it
you want
would
me to
lead
put
to
the sink
disrupting
back
food
on?
production and possibly rendering human life impossible. It's unclear how possible or how large of a nuclear war you would need to create a worldwide nuclear winter, but nevertheless, it is a possibility. But don't worry, here's a solution. I got it right here for you.
I was wondering if you was or not.
Wow. Would you look at that? I'm a freaking genius. At number 8, we have the reversal of the Earth's magnetic field. Every few 100,000 years or so, the Earth's magnetic field dwindles to practically nothing for almost half a century, and then reappears with the north and south poles flipped. The last time this happened was about 780,000 years ago, though, which means we might just be overdue for a complete reversal of our poles. You hear that, Santa? It's time to relocate, buddy. What is currently alarming is that over the last century, the strength of Earth's magnetic fields have decreased by 5%. But why is this a worry in a world filled with
figured it,
GPS
but I was like,
systems and
fuck
people
it,
who will
it
take you
should
anywhere
be
you want
alright by
anyway?
now.
Well, the magnetic fields deflect particle storms and cosmic rays from the sun. Without Earth's magnetic protection, these particles could strike Earth's atmosphere and eat at an already disappearing ozone layer. So if the 5% decrease is of any concern, maybe we better keep an eye on our compasses and start joining Earth's millionaires up in space. At number 7, we have the vacuum collapse. In Kurt Vonnegut's classic book, Cat's Cradle, Vonnegut popularized the idea of Ice 9, a fictional form of water that is much more stable and is a solid at room temperature. If someone unleashed a bit of it, then all of Earth's water transformed to Ice 9 and would freeze all over Earth. In the early history of the universe, based off a leading cosmological model, space was filled with energy. This state of energy was called a false vacuum and was highly precarious. A new, more stable vacuum appeared, and just like Ice 9, it completely took over. This caused an incredible blast of energy, which caused a runaway expansion of the cosmos. Even though it is unlikely, it is possible that an even more stable vacuum exists. As this universe expands and cools, tiny bubbles of this new vacuum could appear and spread at the speed of light. The laws of physics would change in their wake, and a huge blast of energy would crash everything as we know it into tiny little space crumbs. Like I said, it is not very likely, but it is a strange discovery nonetheless. Scientists are much more worried for our number 6 spot. At number 6, we have rogue black holes. Not sure how many of you know about this, but our galaxy is filled with black holes. You know, just collapsed stellar corpses about 10 to 24 times as massive as the sun, you know those things? How many of those are there though? Well, that's a good question. It is estimated that in our very own Milky Way galaxy that there are about 10 million of these
Inspectors
things.
don't like
These
that
cosmic
shit, that's
wonders
all.
are
Yeah, they
caused
want
for
things
alarm
done
because
there.
their gravity is so strong that they can swallow just about anything in its
And then they
path.
extracted all
Black
the
hole
shit
wouldn't
that
have to
probably
come
make
that
it.
close to Earth either to cause a massive swallowing of everything we know. Or even just passing through our solar system, these black holes could distort all of our planet's orbits, and Earth could get caught in an elliptical path that would send our planet out of
Surprisingly
whack,
enough,
or
though, when
even
we were
us
in there, she was
spiraling
like,
into
wow, it's
space
much
out of our
warmer in
natural
here. And it was,
orbit.
you
That
know, we were
sounds
comfortable.
pretty
It
scary
wasn't,
to me.
you know, that
Also, just
cold.
the realization that if Earth moved out of its habitable zone, we could all be done for good. I can't think about that anymore. That's gonna give me lots of
Oh, you be
nightmares.
bumping it, okay.
Coming in hot at our halfway point at number 5, just like the dinosaurs, we have asteroids, and I ain't talking about the video game. I'm talking about the massive space rocks hurtling through space and possibly crashing into our planet. It happened 66 million years ago, and honestly, it could happen again. Asteroids and space rocks have close calls with our planet all the time, and even small meteors and things like that hit Earth all of the time as well. Most of the time, though, they burn up in the atmosphere upon entry, as well as they fall into our oceans. However, large ones can still be out there.
Yeah, I know. I was at the
Luckily for
gas
us,
station, the
NASA
lady
is
told me
fairly
that happened to
confident in its
her.
ability to track these large space rocks.
That happened to
Scientists
the
have
lady at the
recently,
gas
back in
station.
2018, strengthened their fight against this unlikely but catastrophic event. They have better detection services now, as well as have plans to rocket a space vehicle into space at the asteroid to change its course. How sweet is that? However, that has not been tested yet, as well as if one were to get to a big enough size, it wouldn't really matter anyway. So for the time being, let's just keep our fingers, toes, and whatever the hell else we
There's so
can
many
cross
people using it
so
too.
that this does not happen. At number 4, we have super volcanoes. Fun fact. There are some out there who actually believe that it was a super volcano explosion that killed the dinosaurs and not the large asteroid I previously talked about. But
Yeah,
that
I'm gonna go
being
there
said,
now.
most
Wait,
evidence
yeah.
still does point to a massive asteroid, and I'm going to go with the majority of scientists on this one because that's the
All right,
smart
I'll
thing
talk to you
do.
later.
Anyway, the Permian Triassic extinction event
And
that
kick
rendered
it
almost
in the cold in the
90% of
back.
the Earth's species
I got
extinct
you.
is actually believed to have been caused
You're
by a
welcome.
mega eruption.
Bye-bye.
Eruptions can cause
Real
significant
cool.
global cooling as well as disruption.
Yo, when he
to
hopped out, I was
agricultural
like,
production
never. Yeah, he really
around the
rocking his
world.
shit. All
However,
right, I
super
respect it.
proportions is incredibly unlikely.
You seen his
That
hair?
being said, there would be
Yeah.
no
It's
way
a
to
bit
stop
white.
it. So
Yeah, he looks
that's
different now.
that's fun.
So you really
When
rocking
he
that
pulled
shit?
up to
As
mommy's,
of right now, like I said, though, it is unlikely that this will happen during the existence of humans. But
You don't
with
see him
most
every
things,
day
it's not the
anymore.
immediate impact of
Like,
the event, it's the lasting effects on the environment that could
50.
render the end to all of us. Starting us off in our top
Don't
3
let
at
them back
number
in.
3, we have AI. That's right.
Yeah,
Just
see, you
like
did
all
your
those
job.
crazy
Fucking
movies
come
that
back
taught
to
us
him.
growing up.
let
Many
me go to
do
this
fear
real
our
quick.
biggest downfall
Yeah,
coming from our
try
own
to be quick.
electronic
Yeah, I will.
cyborg hands.
At least
The
it's
fear
just
is
right
that
there.
once
You know, it's a
these AI
zigzag, so you ain't really
Yeah.
gotta.
Oh. What's going on over there?
I thought my mom was mad
about
at
to
me,
never
but she
drive
just
again.
emailed me a bunch of coupon links, so everything's
That's
fine.
alright though.
Why?
Everything,
Because I
everything
forgot
happened at
my
the right
sister's
time.
Wedding.
No, why did your mom email you coupons? You do know that online coupons could be a scam. You should Genie that.
Unsure if an email, text, or website is a scam? Ask Norton Genie, and in seconds you'll see if the message is legit.
That's a scam.
Yeah. How do you forget a wedding?
What wedding?
Oh, sorry, scammers. Genie's here.
Become intelligent enough to teach themselves computer science, they could use that knowledge to improve themselves, creating a spiral of increasing intelligence and finally taking over everything and everyone as we know it. Even the late great Stephen Hawking warned the world against AI back in 2014. Hawking stated it would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Yup, if Stephen Hawking said it, then you know there's something to it. So once again, you can find me in my end-of-the-world bunker. Coming in mega hot at number 2, we have climate change. That's right, this one we all known about for years, and we'll have to deal with for years as well. Corals are bleaching, seas are warming, temperatures are warming, hurricanes are happening more frequently, ice is melting, forest fires are raging, the list goes on and on and on. Yes, we are in a major battle to save our planet from the lasting and terrible effects of climate change, and if we do not do something about it soon, in our lifetime, it will only make things worse for the next generation, who may or may not see the truly horrid effects of climate change. So please, everyone, just remember, you don't need to be perfect. We all just need to do better. Fight against companies who don't take our climate crisis seriously. Educate, converse, do whatever you can, and sure enough, we will have a ripple effect of saving our planet. And just remember, it all starts with just one tiny action. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot is the unknown. That's right, the scariest and strangest discoveries that could end all of humanity as we know it are the ones that haven't even been thought of or discovered yet. I don't even want to think of what else could be out there after going through this list today, but if one thing is for certain, it's that most of these we have control over, and we should most definitely take control over. Like I said earlier, see what happens when we all start looking out for each other in the smallest and most unexpected places. It creates a ripple effect and leaves us just a little bit better off. Unless it's an asteroid or a supervolcano, then we're all
Number 10. Decoy spider. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small, but they're exceptionally smart. Smart spiders? That's terrifying already. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web that they've created. Now, this might sound alarming at first, but this larger spider is actually fake. Yeah, it's actually a decoy spider that the small spider built out of various materials, such as food, scraps, debris, and even their old skin. These spiders were only discovered pretty recently in the Amazon, so not too much is known about them, as there still needs to be tons of research done. All we know is that they like to make things that look like a large spider, and that's terrifying enough. Maybe it's for defense purposes, or maybe it's like the ancient Romans, you know? Maybe they're just statues honoring a spider god. That's terrifying. I take that back. Number 9, red belly piranha. I don't have to explain to you why a piranha is a bad idea to get near. I mean, we've all seen Piranha 3DD, right? That's a timeless classic. Well, the red-bellied piranha is one of the most dangerous piranhas in the piranha game. Its behavior is way more aggressive than that of an average piranha. It's almost like an acre of the rainforest disappearing every second is making it more aggressive. Yeah, I'd be aggressive too in those waters, no doubt about it. Number 8, the electric eel. I say, ooh, girl, don't touch this. First of all, never rub an electric eel like that. Never rub one like they're a genie lamp. You'll want more than 3 wishes at that point. That's horrible. That was the moray eel. That one, bite your fingers off easily, but you should never touch an eel in the first place because a lot of them are electric. As its name suggests, these type of eels can mess you up even if you were to get the first hit. Specifically, the newly discovered 2.5-meter Electrophorus volti, appropriately named after Alessandro Volta, aka the guy who invented the battery. It can release a shock up to 860 volts, more than 7 times the voltage of a wall plug. Number 7, the green anaconda. Of course, we have to mention the anaconda. It's so scary. The biggest snake ever. That's horrible. This movie came out 25 years ago. I remember watching it with my family. It made me extremely afraid of snakes and water. Although the green anaconda is a non-venomous snake, the boa constrictor is still one of the most feared. Obviously, look at its size. Green anacondas live in calm marshes or slow streams. They wait until their large prey gets thirsty, and once they come to the water, the anaconda suffocates its lunch. It wraps itself around it like 17 times. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. And then it just slowly eats it. It's so scary. It's so dinosaur, really. Anacondas hunt prey that's larger than us humans, so if they wanted to, they could for sure just swallow us whole. There's only no evidence of it happening because humans rarely interact with them. So yeah, let's keep that ratio at the 0 point. That would be great. Don't be the first guy to get eaten by an anaconda, please. Number 6, the boiling river. Ooh, this one's hot. It's real hot. It's pretty common knowledge that the Amazon is home to the longest river in the world, but there's another river found in the Amazon rainforest that is equally as astonishing, but for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, it's not good. As its name suggests, water temperatures in the boiling river reach up to 93 degrees Celsius. The steam coming off the surface of the water sure is inviting, but animals and humans know better by now. Yeah, no skinny dipping in this river, or any river for that matter. I don't know, there's still water snakes. There's still debate around the source of the heat for this river, but as of right now, it's believed to be entirely natural and geothermal. Now, despite the river not being near any active volcanoes or geothermal vents, it is quite an anomaly. It's odd, just a hot, inviting river for no reason. There are local legends, of course, that say the river is a place of power and that the mother of the waters is responsible for the creation of this incredible and strange, mystifying river. Yeah, I like the sounds of that way more than geothermal activity. That's cool. Oh, the mother of the waters? Yeah, she heated this one up. Come on in. Geothermal. I'm like, it's hot. You might burn your toes. Number 5, Black caiman. If you aren't a fan of alligators, just go ahead and skip to number 4, I guess, because this one's terrifying, honestly. These super alligators live in calm, slow-moving rivers, of course, like the big bad anacondas, places you wouldn't expect a dinosaur to jump out at you. Essentially, that's where you're gonna find one. Just like dangerous river snakes, these black caiman will take it slow. They'll wait for their prey to have a little sip of water, and then, and only then, the largest predator in the Amazon will then race out and grab its lunch, and then quickly return to the water. It's so scary. I've seen this on Reddit. They're fast. They are quite fast. Birds, reptiles, mammals, you name it, this thing can eat it all, and it will eat it all with this big chomping mouth. Between 2008 and October 2013 alone, there were 43 black caiman attacks on people. Yeah, human beings. So stay away from the Amazon, stay away from the water. Don't do anything. Don't even go to zoos anymore. Just stop. Don't even exist. Number 4, silkhenge. We don't even know what spider this is. So yeah, mystery spider leaving mystery art. Here we go. He's the Banksy of spiders. Let's talk about him. There's some sort of spider that's making what is referred to as a silkhenge. Now it's tiny. It's on a little leaf. You will miss this. That's why it's so rare to find. This piece of spider art was first discovered in 2013 by Troy Alexander. Side note, what an amazing name. Like Troy Alexander, you're a Greek goddess, my friend. Troy Alexander posted a photo of it on the internet asking for help in identifying it. I mean, because obviously it's so alien, but nobody can help identify because it's a totally unknown phenomena. And these structures help with reproduction because they're actually protecting eggs. That's the whole purpose. There's one main spire that is constructed of spider silk, and then that's where all the eggs are contained. Then there's also a wall or a fence that's made of spider silk to protect all the eggs in the middle. Therefore, it looks like Stonehenge. That's where it gets its name from, obviously. Stonehenge, silkhenge, they look the same, both fascinating. One's really gross and made of webs, the other's made of rocks and lovely. Hopefully one day we can find out the real creator of these sculptures so we can give them the proper credit they deserve. But number 3, mosquitoes. These guys suck no matter where you are. But when it comes to the Amazon, it's much worse than you could ever imagine. Of course, as if anything else is not calming in there. Mosquitoes are one of the most dangerous because they can fly. You don't see them coming, and once they get you, too late, the damage has already been done. They have your blood, now they're gonna go sell it on the black web. If you travel to parts of the Amazon rainforest and you don't have yellow fever vaccinations or extremely strong mosquito repellent, then you are going to have an extremely bad time. Yeah, these guys are just clouds of malaria waiting for you to walk right into, and that's so disgusting.
There's only one more over
Even
there.
cottages, I can't do it. I'm not a fan of mosquitoes. Number 2, bullet ants. Ugh, Ant-Man would not fight this ant, no way. They're called bullet ants because their bite feels like a bullet wound, so that is a promising start, my friends. It's also referred to as a Paraponera clavata. The bullet ant is commonly found in tropical rainforests in Central and South America. Their sting is considered the most powerful in the world, hence the, bullet alias, and its effects can last 24 hours. That's a long time to be in a horrible amount of pain. These guys get you in a colony though, game over. There's a good chance that you won't survive that. One was bad enough, let alone a colony. That's terrible. Its venom is so powerful that currently these ants are being studied for its use as a pesticide. So we're sacrificing ants in order to further their research on how to sacrifice ants. Number 1, Brazilian wandering spider. Alrighty, this spider can actually help you guys out. Let's do it. Its bite can give you an erection that lasts for hours. That's a real fact. This animal is also obviously dangerous. Its bite will also hurt, besides, that amazing side effect. You'll be sweating, blood pressure will increase, hence, that side effect. And they're more commonly known as banana spiders. It can be found, of course, in Brazil, and there's 8 different kinds of wandering spiders. So my advice, avoid them all. The science is quite interesting here though. They're trying to create the next Viagra by using the spider's venom. Those are the top 10 terrifying Amazon forest discoveries that will make you never travel to the Amazon again.
In our number 10 spot we have The Roar. This is a story about a girl named Alice who had been a fire watcher for a few years and never had any problems. She would go to work for 8 hours and then leave. She would of course see rustling in the trees and assume it was an animal of some sort, but that's it, no issues. Until one unfortunate night when she was just settling into her shift, when she realized that she had forgotten her iPod in the car. She knew that it was highly
Guaranteed fresh? This is gonna be expensive. Wait, it's not expensive?
It's an Aldi thing.
discouraged to leave the tower, especially after sundown, but man, music is her everything, and she felt that the potential mental torture from not having it would be worth the risk. So as quick as she could, she left her base, ran to her car, and grabbed her iPod. She said that it couldn't have been more than 10 minutes in total. When she returned, she noticed that the door was open. Ah, crap. she immediately looked for cover to hide. About a minute after finding cover, she heard a deafening roar that she swears sounded otherworldly. And then she heard something that sounded like big footsteps leaving. After some time had passed and she felt sure that the creature had left, she slowly made her way to the tower. But when she opened the door, much to her surprise, it appeared untouched, almost as if no one even went inside. To this day, she's still confused about that night. Maybe she was just tired and hallucinated the whole thing, but she swears she was not on any illicit substance and that roar was monster-like. In our number 9 spot, we have The Men in Black. This is a story by a man named Gabe, who had been working a shift at the watchtower when he noticed 2 black SUVs drive into the trail in the distance and eventually disappeared among the trees. Seeing this, of course, put him on high alert, as it was pretty early in the morning and the sun was just rising. He found himself really paying attention to see if he could spot any further movement by them. Some time passed when suddenly he hears a loud gunfire. He immediately feels a wave of anxiety as it dawns on him that either an animal was shot or a human. But something told him that 2 black SUVs rolling up in the woods so early in the morning meant that it was probably more likely a human assassination than an animal. He sat there, letting his imagination run wild, when 2 large men knocked on the door of the tower. They were definitely special agents or security guards. He let them in, thinking that if they were violent, they would just come in anyway. They started questioning him, clearly trying to find out if he saw anything. He quickly replied, no, and did everything in his power to convince them. Seemingly satisfied that he was telling the truth, they just left. That was probably the most intense moment in his 5 years on the job. He never experienced anything quite like that again. Damn, that sounded like he witnessed a top secret assassination. Holy bejesus. In our number 8 spot, we have The Flying Man. In North Carolina, circa 2003, an old man by the name of John was on duty at his watchtower. It was about 4 a.m., and as usual, as he put it, he was in his chair guarding the land. He liked to think of himself as some kind of important guard of a magical land such as Middle-earth. Yes, he grew up obsessed with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He had a small TV in the tower with him, and he would often watch reruns of old shows like Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, and Gilligan's Island, to name a few. So that's what he was doing on this particular night. He was feeling rather sleepy and was on the brink of dozing off when suddenly he saw something jump into the sky in the corner of his eye. Startled, he got out of his chair and tried to see what it was. Normally, he would have grabbed his binoculars, but it was still too dark and the sun wasn't going to rise for another 2 hours. Just then, he saw it again. Whatever it was jumped high into the sky and then back down into the trees. What was that, he thought. It looked too big to be a bird, but he couldn't quite make out what it was. He waited for a second and then he saw it again. But this time, he saw what it was as it jumped directly under the moonlight. He knows how crazy it sounds, but without a doubt, he said he saw a human face and what looked like a human jumping. He immediately felt terrified, ducked down, and hid in the tower cot and stayed there for a good hour. Nothing happened afterwards. The sun came up and eventually he left the tower to go home, but he has never forgotten that night, and he has never seen anything like that ever again. In our number 7 spot, we have The Liar. This is the story of a female fire watcher who was on her way to start her shift when she noticed a man with long, straight black hair wearing a long leather black cloak and spiky boots. She wouldn't have thought that this was that out of the ordinary, as she's come across a few punk rockers in her time. But on this particular day, it was literally 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was almost impossible to breathe. So the fact that there was a person alive wearing a long leather coat on this day was insanity. She noticed him out of the corner of her eye, standing beside his car, just staring at her as she left her car. She smiled, trying to be polite, and then started picking up her pace and walked towards her tower. He began to follow her, and he must have ran to catch up with her because as quick as a blink, he was right behind her saying, "Hello." She jumped from the surprise and said, "Hi," back. He asked her where she was going. She told him that she
Golden
was going to work
Sun.
and that she was
They
kind
add
of
a
in a
new
rush.
game. They're
He
playing
said,
with me, bro.
"No problem.
Because they
Why don't
ain't
you
trying to
just
add
give me your number
motherfucking
and
the
we can
original
talk later?"
Pokemons, the
At this point, she
Gen
was
1
scared
one,
about
and
saying no,
and that's
as
really
he
pissing me
clearly
off.
had already
You know what
shown
grinds
signs
my
of
gears?
insanity, but she also didn't want to give this potential psycho her actual number. So she just said, "I'm sorry, but I have a boyfriend." He didn't respond right away, and so she picked up her pace and she waved to him, thinking that the conversation had died and that he would just walk away. But then he screamed, "Liar!" She jumped and turned around to see him just glaring at her. She decided to make a run for it. But when she got to the tower, she quickly locked the door, and thankfully, he never followed her. She decided to take some self-defense classes after this incident, just in case anything like this ever happened again. Probably a good idea. In our number 6 spot, we have the witches. According to this fire watcher, witch
Golden
rituals
Sun, I
are
might play
particularly
you.
uncommon to see.
Yo, bro,
in
did
the
you ever play
West.
Golden Sun?
At least around their Sabbaths, you will see covens of witches gathering around and chanting around a fire in the middle of the forest, sometimes naked. Yes, she could see them with her binoculars. She assures you that she wasn't being a creep, but she just wanted to make sure that they were safe, and watching for fires is literally her job. Regardless of how truly risky it is to start a bonfire in the forest, in this area in particular where this fire watcher works, she would be highly against any after-hour meetup, as she has seen many a deadly animal in the woods in her time. But it doesn't matter how many signs you put up, people never listen. She always has to report the covens for the mini bonfires, and it always makes her feel frustrated because she wants people to be able to practice their religions, but why do they have to risk an entire forest fire? In any case, she gets shook every time she sees them and their naked ways. Fascinating. I'm the type of person to wear fleece in bed in the summer, so the idea of dancing around naked outside at any point sounds torturous to me. In our number 5 spot, we have The Flash. This particular fire watcher hasn't had a lot of weird experiences in the year that he has been on duty, but there have been a few questionable occurrences. The watcher said that every so often you'll be looking out and you'll see a light flash randomly in the forest. Not like a firefly type of glittery flash, but a bright flash. He's asked his co-workers, and they've also noticed this strange occurrence every so often. He has also seen a lot of extremely fast objects in the sky. You could argue that they are planes, but they're seemingly way faster than planes. Perhaps it could be a plane that the government has invented that is extremely fast, and we just don't know about it yet. Or it could be aliens, one of the two. But he'll never forget the first time he saw the abnormally fast plane or alien ship, as he had never seen anything like that before, and for a second, he did feel a bit scared that perhaps some kind of foreign entity was about to land on Earth. But it was late at night and he was pretty tired. In our number 4 spot, we have the Dog Man. This is the story of a man that was on duty at a watchtower in Michigan. It was the year 2007. It was just a regular day. Nothing out of the ordinary happened from what he can remember. He had a 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, and so he was getting ready for another long night. The night had gotten pretty dark fairly quickly, and so he was looking out into basically an almost pitch black wonderland with a million stars in the sky and the moon being the main source of light over the forest. Some time had passed when all of a sudden, he heard the weirdest howl that he had ever heard before. It was either a wolf that was sick or an animal that he had never come across before because it was a weird screeching howl. He looked around to see if he could spot its owner when he saw some movement down below. He continued watching the spot when suddenly he saw the craziest thing. It was a dog, but with the body of a human. It took everything in him not to scream and run for his life, but he thought he was most likely safer in the fire tower, and he was right. That weird creature never revealed himself ever again. But whoa, was that scary. In our number 3 spot, we have the Stare. One night, this fire watcher was working an overnight shift. She was very aware of campers being in the woods that night because it was summer and people tended to camp in her forest quite a lot. So it wasn't alarming for her to see a man walking through the area below her tower, as she assumed that it was just one of her campers. But when she got a closer look at the man, she noticed that he was holding a knife in his hand, in a very horror movie-like way. And the next thing she knew, the man was looking up at her, and they were having a full-on staring contest for what she said felt like an eternity. The man, still holding the knife, smiles at her, then continues on his way. She immediately checked the locks on the tower to make sure that they were locked, but she never saw him after that. Probably one of the creepiest, most alarming 20 seconds of her life. In our number 2 spot, we have the spaceship. This particular fire watcher by the name of Kyle began telling his story by prefacing that being a fire watcher and a forest service worker, you see a lot more strange things that you can't rationalize or explain than you do fires. He would not recommend this job to anyone that fears the unknown. One memory that he will never forget is of a light in the sky that was just lingering. He became particularly interested in it because it didn't look quite like a star. It was this skinny vertical object that was bright and just hanging out in the sky. At some point, it looked like something on it flashed, kind of like the lights on a plane, except this was on the bottom of its vertical tail and it wasn't red. He continued to look at it when suddenly, at an incredible lightning speed, it disappeared into the sky. Whoa. So basically this guy saw a spaceship, wild, but honestly, if you're sitting around and just staring at the wilderness and the sky for 8 hours, you're bound to witness a spaceship at some point, I think. Coming up in our number 1 spot, we have the Mudman. This story is told by a fire watcher named Alex, who never thought that he would want to be a fire watcher, but he saw an opening for a position that paid 10 grand a month, and so he obviously wasn't going to turn it down. 10 grand a month, holy moly. I wonder if this position is straight out of our tax dollars, because seriously, 10 grand is a ridiculous amount for this person, and if I'm paying for this, well, I'ma be writing a stern letter. Let's be real, I def wouldn't, but whatever, ridiculous. Anyways, so this guy Alex began his first shift at the watchtower, and as he enters the tower, he finds a letter from his coworker on things he should know about the job. The coworker listed a bunch of things that he should be aware of, such as don't go out in the middle of the night, if you hear anything in the middle of the night, stop what you're doing and hide, and oh yeah, here's a gun just in case. Okay, starting to see why this job may pay so high. In any case, Alex starts his first shift. Everything is going well until around 3 a.m. in the morning when he begins to hear the sound of metal creaking. He felt a sharp pain in his stomach, and out of fear, he ran to the cot in the corner to hide. Just then, the door opened, and he saw something that didn't look human, like a humanoid. With every step, a squish sound came with it. It walked to his cot and then eventually turned around and left. Later on, while talking to his coworker, he was informed that he had his first encounter with what they have called the Mudman. Apparently one of the many monsters in this forest. Okay, yep, well, that's terrifying. I kind of wish they had installed a camera because we the people need to see evidence of this, like now.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have this scary water discovery. Researchers at Michigan State University have been working to try and provide us with a worldwide view on how climate change will affect our water availability. We obviously need water to survive, and we are quickly running out of it, and climate change certainly isn't helping. In an article posted to the National Science Foundation on February 2nd, these researchers announced their discovery that if we continue on the same trajectory we're on, by the end of the 21st century, the global land area and population facing extreme drought could more than double. This is an extremely dire discovery, and researchers have said that if things don't change, areas of the southern hemisphere where water scarcity is already a problem will be disproportionately affected, and that it could affect food security and escalate human migration and conflict. This study definitely shed a light on a problem that we don't always think about. In our number 9 spot today, we have this AirPod mishap. Bradford Gauthier woke up in the morning feeling fine, except for one bizarre thing. When he tried to drink a glass of water, he found that he was unable to actually swallow the water down. He realized he felt a bit of pressure in his chest and thought, oh, maybe my throat is just dry, since he had been shoveling snow the night before. Bradford had fallen asleep with his AirPods in, so he went to look for them.
I need to start cooking. That's one thing, like I always be forgetting to do is like cook for the morning.
And that's when other members of his household began suggesting what might have happened to the other
That shit makes the biggest
After an
difference.
emergency room visit and an x-ray, doctors discovered exactly what Bradford's family assumed had happened. In his sleep, Bradford had accidentally swallowed one of the AirPods and it was lodged in the lower part of his esophagus. Luckily, he was able to quickly get it removed, and apparently it actually still works despite the volume being a bit lower. In our number 8 spot today, we have this horrible Vancouver Island discovery. One Vancouver Island resident made a pretty terrible discovery recently as she was walking along a beach in Nanaimo. As she was walking, she unfortunately came across a sea lion that didn't have its head. Of course, this is never a good discovery, but matters were made worse when she ended up finding 5 sea lions in total with the same devastating injury. A marine mammal expert for the area explained that the injuries are definitely deliberate, which means that there is someone or some people who are going around doing this to the sea lions, which is absolutely horrible. The expert also explained that some of these sea lions were Steller sea lions, which are an at-risk species, which certainly makes the crime even worse than it already was. There will be an investigation into these discoveries, and hopefully they'll be able to figure out what exactly is going on there. In our number 7 spot today, we have this creepy garbage bag discovery. A New Zealand resident was walking along one day when they came across 2 full garbage bags. This can be a sign of something pretty gruesome, so they decided to call the police. Once the bags were open, it was confirmed that luckily they weren't filled with human remains, as was the worst case scenario, but they did contain something pretty unsettling. These garbage bags were full of mannequin heads. I'm sure this probably terrified the person who opened the bags when they first took a look. I'm glad it wasn't anything harmful, but there definitely is something weird about this discovery that feels very ominous. At the end of the day, I am just glad that no one got hurt. In our number 6 spot today, we have this Nebraska semi-truck discovery. Nebraska police pulled over a semi-truck on January 22nd after it had been clocked going 85 miles per hour in a 65 miles per hour zone, and it was also said that the driver wasn't quite in his lane. Upon further inspection, police discovered that not only did the driver appear to be under the influence, his truck was also carrying a few illicit substances. Authorities revealed that the truck had several hidden concealment points, which is consistent with the substance transport. Of course, the driver ended up being taken into custody where he is awaiting bail, and the truck was towed from the scene for further investigation. In our number 5 spot today, we have this pre-approved vaccine controversy. Since the start of the pandemic, companies have been in a race to create a vaccine that can help return our world to normal. Of course, now in 2021, there are a few options for vaccines that are being distributed, while other companies are in the trial testing phases to ensure that the vaccines are safe for humans. These testing trials are absolutely critical as there is a level of trust with these kinds of things that is imperative to their success. Well, a biotechnology company recently came under fire after their COVID vaccine, called Covaxin, received regulatory approval from the Drugs Controller General of India, despite it not having gone through stage 3 trials completely. It was only approved for emergency use, so it's not likely it was about to be widely distributed, but it certainly feels safer to wait until it is gone and fully completed all testing trials. In our number 4 spot today, we have this real estate agent creepy discovery. A West Virginia real estate agent was looking around a house she was selling when she came across something that literally made her scream. She unsuspectingly opened the basement door and found a statue of a boy, which certainly would make anyone jump at first. If you thought you were alone and opened a door to this, for a split second, I am sure it would spook you right out, as you might think it was a real person. Aside from that, the statue looks very creepy, like it honestly could be cursed. This statue with the backdrop of an unfinished basement definitely creeps me out just looking at the photo of it. The realtor explained that although she is used to seeing weird and funny things in houses, this is the first time one has scared her so much she screamed. In our number 3 spot today, we have this Australian mom's discovery. As summer holidays were coming to a close and school was about to begin in Australia, one mom decided it was time to get her kids ready for the school year. She grabbed their backpacks in order to fill them up with new school supplies. That is when she grabbed one of her daughter's backpacks only to open it up and find her lunch bag that still had food in it from when summer holidays began last year. Of course, this is an honest mistake and pretty much completely harmless, aside from the mom having the horrific task of figuring out what to do with the rotten food an undoubtedly smelly Tupperware container. This mom definitely deserves some extra love after that. In our number 2 spot today, we have this mechanic discovery. A mechanic's TikTok has gone viral after a completely shocking discovery was made. His username is chaos_no, but I believe that the account is now private. Apparently, a customer had brought in her car to get it inspected after she believed her ex-boyfriend had placed a tracking device on it. The mechanic was unfortunately able to prove her fears correct when he found exactly what she suspected was there. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any update on what exactly happened after they found the device, and I'm not exactly sure what can be done in this situation, but I am very glad they found it, and really glad that the mechanic took the woman seriously and really searched for it. In the comments of the video, there were a lot of people sharing similar experiences, and I honestly had no idea that this was such a common occurrence. In the number 1 spot today, we have Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert is an NBA player with the Indiana.
This is Alaska. Some questions just don't have answers.
True Detective Night Country, streaming exclusively on Max.
Pacers. He was first drafted in 2016 by the Pacers, but was then traded to the Brooklyn Nets, where he played until he was traded back to the Pacers this year. When you're traded to a new team, there is a mandatory health screening that you have to go through. Karis was doing this screening and received an MRI when doctors discovered a mass on his left kidney. On January 25th, he underwent a successful surgery to remove this mass, and it was confirmed that it was a type of kidney cancer called renal cell carcinoma. It is said that Karis luckily doesn't need any further treatment, and he should be making a full recovery, which is amazing news. He explained how the trade potentially saved his life because he was feeling 100% healthy and had no symptoms telling him that anything was wrong. The mandatory screening for this trade let him know what was going on in his body, and I am so glad that they caught it in time.
Number 10, Amazon tools. The Amazon rainforest is home to many unique and dangerous creatures, as well as unsolved mysteries and lost civilizations. But did you know that the Amazon was actually once home to giants? At least this evidence discovered in 2012 seems to point to that being the truth. A group of Ecuadorian researchers ventured into the thick forest in order to follow ancient legends of a city of giants, and they actually found it. They found massive stone structures and even a large pyramid. The stones being so precisely cut and arranged that it could not have been just formed by the forces of nature. Within these structures, they also found massive stone tools that were too large for any normal-sized human to use, including hammers and chisels and other building tools. While some people do still chalk it up to natural formations, the team and many others stand by their belief that this city was once home to a race of giants. Number 9, giant skeleton. In 1890 in France, a man named Georges Vacher made a skeletal discovery in a Bronze Age cemetery in Castelnau. 3 separate bone fragments were found that came from both the arm and the leg, or humerus and tibia bones for all the scientists out there. The bones seem to date back to the Neolithic era, which was around 10,000 to 4,000 BC, and they are thought to be evidence of one of the largest human beings ever. The man who discovered them used the size of the bone fragments to estimate the total size of the person, which would have been around 11.5 feet tall. In 1892, the bones were sent to a university in France to be carefully studied by a professor of pathological anatomy, him admitting that the bones represented a, quote, very tall race. A few years later, giant skulls were found in another French cemetery and also sent away for even more study. Number 8, Bigfoot. The first discovery of Sasquatch or Bigfoot footprints goes all the way back to the year 1811. Since then, there have been countless reports of Bigfoot sightings and encounters, and with the invention of photo and video cameras came massive amounts of apparent real footage of Bigfoot. Bigfoot is most often described as being a giant humanoid creature around 15 feet tall who tends to hang out in the woods and ignore fabricated mating calls from Bigfoot hunters on their television shows. These sightings also span all the way across the entire world, each country and culture having their own representation and name for the mysterious creature. From the Russian Yeti to the Australian Yowie, they're apparently everywhere. So while many photos and recordings of Bigfoot have been debunked, there are many people who truly believe the Bigfoot is real, and who's to say they couldn't potentially be a long-lost race of giants who had to move into the woods as society evolved. Number 7, West Virginia giants. The giant skeletons discovered in France aren't the only reports of giant remains being found. They have also been found in American soil, specifically in West Virginia. In 1774, a man named Jack Parsons was walking along a flooded river when he saw a bone sticking out of the ground. And like any normal person would do, he pulled it out, discovering it was a femur, but it was almost twice the size of his own. Alongside it, he found more bones and discovered a skeleton that was around 8 feet tall. In 1838, excavators found even more remains that were also much taller than the average person. In the 1850s, even more were found, though they soon went missing and were thought to have been stolen and sold. Over the years, even more remains were found in the late 1800s, one skeleton even being over 10 feet tall. The Giant Town and other places across West Virginia have even more stories of discoveries of this race of giants. Number 6, Robert Wadlow. Arguably the most famous real giant who you've probably heard of before is a man who was named Robert Wadlow. If you have read the Guinness Book of World Records or visited one of their walkthrough museums, you've probably seen his picture or stood next to his giant life-size statue. And yes, this guy was actually real, and he was actually that tall. He was just brushing 9 feet tall at the time of his death in the summer of 1940. He was born in 1918, and at the time, no one knew just how tall he was going to be, as he was an average-sized baby weighing 8.7 pounds, which is less than I weighed when I was born, but to be fair, I was a big baby. He then quickly started to shoot up, and by the time he was 8 years old, he was almost 6 feet tall. For reference, the average 8-year-old is usually around 4 feet tall. He became a celebrity for his height, starring in the circus and doing a promotional tour for a shoe company. Unfortunately, his gigantism led to numerous medical issues, and he died at the age of only 22. Number 5, Greek mythology. Now let's turn around and take a look back at some more theoretical proof of giants. Some famous giants from different cultures and legends. I know you may not think of this as real evidence, but I just love digging into these myths and depictions. And if so many different cultures across the world are writing about giants, this could be evidence that they're real, right? So let's start with the Greeks. Atlas was the name of a titan that went to war against Olympus. As we know, the Titans lost, and Atlas was cursed to hold up the sky for the rest of eternity. Atlas also had a run-in with Perseus, who was a slayer of monsters. Atlas tried to scare Perseus away, and in response, Perseus took Medusa's head out of his bag and turned Atlas to stone, creating the range that is now known as the Atlas Mountains. But hey, at least he doesn't have to hold up the sky anymore. Number 4, Irish giants. Irish mythology believes that a race of giants known as the Fomorians were actually the original settlers of Ireland. Balor was the king of these one-eyed giants and was also the god of death. It was said that anyone who looked at him would die instantly. Because of this, he constantly kept his eye closed until it was absolutely necessary. A prophecy said that he would be killed by his own grandson, so he locked his daughter away to prevent her from having any children. But this didn't work, as a minor god snuck in and got comfortable with his daughter, and they loved each other very much, and she had 3 kids. But Balor was still thinking with his head, and so he threw all 3 kids into the ocean. Problem solved, right? Wrong. One of the sons survived and was raised by the god of the sea. The kid grew up, led a bunch of Irish gods into battle, and he killed Balor by ripping out his eye. Goodbye, King of Giants, you really tried your best. Number 3, the Bible. When you think of giants in the Bible, you may think of the story of Goliath, a giant who was defeated by a regular-sized shepherd named David. Goliath was a champion from the city of Gath, which is a place where a race of giants apparently originated from. His exact size is up in the air, but many people believe he was around 9'7" and wore a large amount of bronze armor. And here's how the story goes. David goes out to face Goliath, holding the fate of his people in his hands. So of course, he's armed with a very menacing weapon, a slingshot. David uses his trusty slingshot to fire a rock, which hits Goliath right between his eyes. And Goliath falls down and dies immediately. Pretty good shot. David and Goliath has become an infamous story for representing the underdog, though my personal favorite story about underdogs is the movie Underdog, released in 2007. Number 2, Gog Magog. If you know me, then you know I'm constantly looking for names to name my future children, and this one is definitely a strong contender. Gog Magog is the name of the last British giant. A Welshman wrote a book about how early Britain was inhabited by a race of giants, one of them being Gog Magog, 12 feet tall and able to easily uproot an oak tree. One day the giants attacked Brutus, descendant of the Trojans, and all the giants were killed except for good old Goggy. Brutus took Gog Magog to his second in command, who was apparently super into giant wrestling. The two wrestled and Gog Magog was going pretty ham and crushed a few of the guy's ribs. But this didn't kill the guy and instead just made him super angry. Fueled by his rage, the man was able to pick up Gog Magog, carry him up a hill, toss him off a cliff to his death, ridding the world of Britain's last giant. Rest in peace, Gog Magog. Number 1, Hrungnir. Giants exist all over Norse mythology, but the one that is known as the biggest and baddest is called Hrungnir. One day, Odin, the leader of the Norse gods of Asgard, challenged the giant to a horse race, which turns out to be a little unfair when you take into account the fact that Odin was riding his magical 6-legged horse and Hrungnir just had a normal horse. He of course lost, and Odin at least felt a little bad about it, so he invited the giant back to Asgard for a drink. Like me, he couldn't handle his alcohol and started getting a little rowdy, saying that he would kill all of the gods of Asgard except for 2 goddesses, which he would bring back with him to the realm of the giants. The Asgardians were like, hey bro, that's kinda not cool, and told Thor to come deal with this clown. So the two met for battle, Hrungnir wearing stone armor and with a massive stone as his weapon. Thor picked up his magical hammer Mjolnir and it broke through both the stone and Hrungnir's face, killing him. I'm noticing a pattern in these stories that the giant always ends up dying, and probably why they're not around today.
Kicking off the list at number 10, let's dive in. Barracuda. Exploring the deep is dangerous if you're a diver, of course, not because of the deadly ocean life surrounding your every direction, but because if you come up too quickly, major health problems will follow. But if not that, probably a deadly barracuda, equally as scary. This deep discovery was made by user Arira95. I'm pulling real events for this one from real deep sea divers. I'm going to the real content for this one, so buckle up. One time, when my parents visited Mexico, they went diving and my mom was slightly lower than my dad, looking at the ocean floor. My mom had on a gold necklace that was floating in the water around her, and it was a sunny day and a fairly shallow dive at this point, so it was sparkling. My mom looked below at all the critters when my dad grabbed her and started frantically shaking her arm to get her attention. I'm sweating reading this. She looked up and a barracuda was directly in front of her, staring intently at that shiny necklace. She slowly moved up her hand to cover the necklace, and they slowly and calmly moved away from it, and it took off without bothering them anymore. But still pretty unsettling, and taught my mom to be a little more aware of her surroundings when she's diving. I mean, fair, but I mean, no one expects a barracuda. Also, if your mom wants to dive with chains on, that's pretty sick. You won't catch her slacking. Even in the depths of the sea, she's like, I'm ready. I don't care who shows up. I don't care who I bump into. Water shoes and bling. Check and check. Let's go diving. Number 9, venomous sea snakes. Last year in the deep waters off Australia's coast, of course it's Australia, always Australia, a sea snake that was once thought to be extinct has been rediscovered. How fun. He's like, psych, just when you thought the ocean couldn't get even more dangerous, now we got new sea snakes to worry about. The short-nosed sea snake hasn't been seen in 23 years, and they would often live near Ashmore Reef. But last year, divers found one 67 meters below the surface in the Twilight Zone, which is pretty wild. just lurking in the dark, just hanging out, meditating. The Australian Institute of Marine Science is responsible for this discovery, and the team calls this a second chance to protect and further understand the species. And an up-close personal encounter is brought to life from this diver. Apparently, this happens from time to time before major storms. Snakes can sense an oncoming storm, so what they try and do is latch onto something heading in the direction towards shore, so they don't have to burn energy and they can just grab onto like a barrel or something and then just, make its way there. Pretty smart. So this diver was exploring, nothing was going crazy or anything like that, and then he felt a snake wrap onto his leg because he felt a storm was coming in. The diver didn't even know that a storm was coming. The snake did, and he wrapped its snake self around his leg. As soon as I was in the shallows, it uncurled and headed up the beach where it hid under a breadfruit tree. That was from a diver named Specialist Celery. Great name, also terrifying experience. I don't like snakes in water or on land. Next, number 8. Surprise tiger shark. Yeah, not something you want to see diving in the deep. A tiger shark. A glowing shark, left shark, I don't care. I want none of the shark smoke. This deep sea discovery comes from user Stormcutter. Sick name, a little bit better of a diver name. They say, I know a guy who was out diving for crayfish and lobster by the ocean. Also, the I know a guy trick, it was totally you. Don't lie to us. Crayfish often hide under the rocks, so as he was diving, a tiger shark emerged from a cave and rammed him, breaking his arm and ribs. This guy got shucked by a shark. That's insane. He said the shark was testing him out. Yeah, I'd say. That's pretty sweet, man. I'm glad you survived, honestly. I bet you couldn't wait to tell people what happened. You're like, oh, my ribs? Yeah, I got sideswiped by a tiger shark. Yeah, he's feeling testy. You know how tiger sharks do. If you're wondering what that experience may have looked like, this is footage of a rare tiger shark in New Zealand, lurking in the deep.
Bro, gonna go crazy. The signs over there? That's it? Alright, we going right now.
Sidetrack 38, that's their username, not their legal name, although that would be pretty sweet. Sidetrack 38, he's like, what's up? They were exploring the ocean one afternoon when all of a sudden they got charged by a mother humpback whale. The divers shared their experience online, saying, her curious calf had swam around us and we were between her and the calf. 2 of us never even saw her coming. We were watching the baby, but our third diver saw her come. She kicked down and swam under us last minute. We didn't see anything until that 60-foot freight train passed just underneath us. Whales are beautiful. They're beautiful but terrifying creatures, my friend. Glad you didn't get a broken rib or back in this case, because whales, they like to go pretty deep.
Just a view. Just trying to figure us out.
Incredible.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Justin, you want the reds off?
Look at that view. I hope we're getting screen captures of this.
Number 6, mako shark. Mako sharks are one of the fastest sharks in the world. I'll start by saying that. Just get that fact in your head. Given this list so far, I would also start sweating if I were you. This is a scary one. This deep dive horror story comes from username One Dumb Diver. Great name. They clearly made this account just to share this occasion, so let's dive in. Nowadays, we dive with shark shields, which emit electronic pulses that freak the sharks out and keep them away. But back then, what we used was essentially a chainmail sleeve. The idea being that sharks hate the taste of metal, so if you give it your arm, it'll bite down, decide you're gross, and then move along. So I wait, it comes over, and I make a perfect move to give it my arm. However, just before the crunch, it occurred to me that I had left my sleeve on my bed. Now I had a huge open, gashing wound on my arm from the bite in open water, and it trailed blood everywhere. Not an ideal scenario. So once the shock finally wore off, you realize that you're in salt water, and salt and open wounds, they don't feel good. In a panic, I dropped my weight belt and shot up to the surface without any sort of waiting period. Not great. Because I hadn't been paying attention to the currents, I was approximately a quarter mile downstream of my boat, which meant that I had to swim back up to it. After getting bitten by a shark, imagine having to swim, that is a nightmare scenario. Glad you're okay. Also, you're not a dumb diver, you're experiencing the things. You're figuring it out. You're doing great. You're brave. I don't even like going in lakes. Number 5, more sea snakes. Coming from Patrick667 about a year ago as well, they posted, so 3 days ago I went snorkeling off Mimba Island in Zanzibar. Everything went normal and we started heading back, so I grabbed my net and I put my black fins, my black mask, snorkel, and black wetsuit inside. Once back ashore, I grab my bag, jump off the boat, and head to the rental office to return said equipment. At that point, I feel my bag is moving somehow. At first look, it seemed like a flat black worm squirming quickly. After rotating the bag, I realized I was looking at only the tail of a 1 meter long black sea snake, one of the most venomous reptiles ever, trying to get out of the net. Like in the lobby. How it got there, I have no freaking clue. That is a nightmare scenario. Imagine being like, thanks so much, I had a great time. Here's a sand dollar. Also, don't mind the venomous snake. Number 4, the frilled shark. Back in 2004, marine biologists discovered this dinosaur, the frilled shark, just hanging out, just lurking about 870 meters below the surface. So if you're anywhere around there, watch out. This one looks like an eel almost. It's so scary looking, it's so slippery and quick. Frilled sharks can grow up to 7 feet long and they fight in the dark. They don't need to see to attack you, which is pretty terrifying considering all these deep dive stories are all in the pitch black. So unless you're a deep diver, you're not really gonna run into the frilled shark. Have you ever dealt with one of these? Are you a diver? Are you watching this because you're a diver? Please comment down below if you are. Comment some of your personal experiences. These were a nightmare to read. I couldn't even finish half of them. Everything is so dangerous and so fast underwater. Number 3, snapping shrimp. This little guy can literally create a sonic boom as it attacks you. That's how fast it is. You won't see him coming, and neither did this diver. Here's a clip of a mantis shrimp punching through a diver's gear. Yeah, right through their water shoes. Bam!
Ow, that really hurt.
They're so quick. Oh my God, they're tiny, but they really hit. They're often found.
Woo! Come on! I say you gotta get it rolling. Get it right. Make it happen.
Twinings. Teas that taste great and do you good. Twinings. Drinking life.
In coral reefs, oyster reefs, these little guys, these pistol shrimp, they hit their prey at 100 kilometers per hour. And in doing so, a large air bubble is created, and because this, Mike Tyson shrimp is so quick with the left hook, the following pop is around 200 decibels. The sound alone can stun its prey, and if they're lucky, it sometimes kills them. That's how you want to go out. You don't want to go out with one of these Superman punches to the neck. Number 2, comb stars. Ocean life is by far the scariest thing out there. We have no idea what's in our oceans. We discover some crazy shit every year. Some deep sea fish with bioluminescence are for sure aliens, while others are just natural predators that look scary. Like the comb star, for example. This guy was not in Finding Nemo. He would have been a weird addition. A comb star is a starfish that contains tetrodotoxin, which is this deadly neurotoxin that can cause paralysis. Yeah, Finding Nemo, that movie would be over in 8 minutes if this guy was there. Per every gram of comb star flesh, there's enough toxin to take out 500 mice. So if you have a mice problem, honestly, you can call one guy. It's a very specific, weird call, but I know how you can do it. A little bit of tetrodotoxin. Tetrodotoxin? Tetrodotoxin. That's what it's called. And finally, coming in at number 1, the electric eel. Awesome. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. Great. The moray eel, first of all, don't do what he just did. Don't go up to a random eel and start rubbing it like it's a genie lamp. That's not smart. It's not a Great Dane. You don't want to do that. That was the moray eel. That one can bite your fingers off in like 2 seconds. But you should never touch an eel in the first place because a lot of them are electric. Yeah, just like that MGMT song that's now stuck in our heads. As its name suggests, there's types of eels that can mess you up even if you were to get the first hit. Specifically, the newly discovered 2.5 meter Electrophorus volti. Appropriately named after Alessandro Volta, aka the guy who invented the battery, this eel can release a shock up to 860 volts, which is more than 7 times the voltage of a wall plug. A swimming wall plug that gets hungry. Nice. We love nature. I'm never swimming again.
Number 10, 7,000-year-old execution grave. In 2013, near Halberstadt, archaeologists were excavating a Neolithic settlement site when they came across a grisly discovery. The team, led by Christian Meyer, found a burial pit filled with nearly complete skeletons of 9 people who lived approximately 7,000 years ago. Through testing of isotopes in their bones and teeth, which are different between people depending on diet and other factors, scientists deduced that these people were from a different location than the rest of the bodies that were buried in the area. The 9 skeletons were also in positions that would indicate that they were thrown into the pit somewhat haphazardly, as opposed to being buried ceremoniously like some of the others near the same site were. The most disturbing part is how this grave differs from other graves around the country. In all of these other sites, the dead have all perished in different ways, as made clear with the forensic analysis of the bones, from spears to blunt force to natural causes. However, in the Halberstadt site, all of the dead have the same fatal wound on the back of the head, implying that these people were executed in the same precise way, with a blow from a blunt weapon in the same spot. The archaeologists believe that this, combined with the fact that the dead found were mostly men, shows that these people were an attacking party who were clearly unsuccessful in their raid. Number 9, sunken ship. Before I tell you this next dark discovery, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that we can keep bringing you amazing content. First found in 2020, this 400-year-old wooden ship was found at the bottom of the River Trave, insanely well preserved.
Researchers say that since wood rots so quickly underwater in this region, they were surprised at how much of the ship remained intact. The ship is believed to be a single-masted cargo vessel between 20 and 25 meters long, and sunk standing almost completely upright. Around 150 wooden cargo barrels were found in the wreck that were filled with quicklime, an ingredient for mortar used in stonework made from burning limestone. Because of this specialized cargo, scientists believe that the ship was sailing from Scandinavia to regions of northern Germany that don't have any limestone. Marine researchers have been amazed at how well preserved the ship is, and they believe this is due to a layer of mud that happened to cover it when it finally rested on the bottom of the river. The mud kept the wood from rotting, but it also protected it from a type of saltwater clam known as the shipworm, which is very, very good at destroying submerged wood. Research and underwater excavations are still ongoing, and the team even believes that they may find remains of some of the long-lost crew that was aboard when the ship met its final resting place. Number 8. Found in the foliage. In 1980, 69-year-old Paul L. went for a walk in the forest near the town of Bruckberg. He did not tell anyone where he was going, but he left a farewell note for his family as he knew that this would be his last walk. His family searched for years, but he was never found. And in 2009, a teenage boy was walking through the same forest and noticed something strange, a bone lying on the ground. And after he brought it to the attention of the police, law enforcement did a thorough search of the area and discovered a skeleton 11 meters off the ground in a spruce tree. This chilling find is only amplified by the fact that both the body and a pistol were tied to the same tree. Police investigators believe that Paul L. climbed the tree, tied himself to it, and took his own life. And this is what made the body so difficult to find. I mean, who looks for a skeleton in a tree? Number 7. German Stonehenge. Most of us know about Stonehenge, a prehistoric monument in England consisting of circles made with massive stone slabs. No one's 100% sure who made it or what it was used for other than rituals, but it's not the only place of its kind in the world. In 1991, a plane was flying towards Berlin, and someone noticed a strange structure below. When people went to investigate, they discovered this henge. It consists of concentric circles made out of massive wooden poles. The largest of the circles measures 115 meters or 380 feet, which actually makes it larger than England's Stonehenge. Archaeologists have since found multiple burial sites containing the remains of men and women of all ages who appear to have died in a sort of ritual sacrifice, some of which appear to be quite brutal. Weapons such as axes, along with drinking vessels and butchered animal bones were also found at the site. However, new excavations have found evidence of settlements as well, implying that not only was this place used for rituals and solstice celebrations, but also as a place for locals to live. Number 6. Stashed secrets. In August of 2021, a history teacher was cleaning and making repairs to his aunt's house in Hagen after there had been severe flooding damage. When he removed a piece of rotted board, he found a small, 1-foot wide hidden area, and inside he saw a newspaper dated in 1945. When he continued to look further, he discovered many German military artifacts from World War II, including a portrait of the mustached leader of Germany, brass knuckles, a revolver, military patches, and many, many letters and documents. It's believed that the house was once the local headquarters for the National Socialist People's Welfare Organization, or the NSV at the time, which was in charge of doling out the riches stolen from Jewish groups and individuals during the war. In other words, a safe house for bad guys. But the family says that they had no idea the history of the building when they purchased it in the 60s. Things were so haphazardly thrown and hidden in the wall that researchers believe that it must have been done in quite a hurry when the Allied troops closed in on the city. With no time to dispose of the important documents, they hid them in the walls, making for quite a discovery 76 years later. Number 5. Reused graves. In August of 2022, archaeologists were doing a preventative dig at the site of a newly planned rainwater retention basin in Tuttlingen and came across a late Stone Age culture grave dating back to 3000 BC. While no human remains from that era have been found, the other items in the burial site imply that they were graves, mostly the pottery made from broken ceramic indicative of that time period, which would have been adorned with textures and pictures for the dead. However, there was another discovery made shortly after, in the same spot. More items were uncovered by archaeologists, including swords, jewelry, and drinking glasses, but this time they were from the Middle Ages, around 500 AD. That's right, a medieval gravesite on top of one from the Stone Ages, meaning that this same burial ground was used again 3,500 years after it was the first time. Excavation is still ongoing, so who knows what else they'll find. Number 4, the Unicorn Cave carving. Deep in the Harz Mountains lies the Einhornhöhle, or the Unicorn Cave. It got its name from treasure hunters who thought that the remains they discovered there were those of the mythological animal, when most likely they were something else entirely, the bones of a prehistoric giant deer. In 2014, researchers discovered a 51,000-year-old art piece carved into the toe bone of a species of deer that existed during the Ice Age. Originally thought to be butchering marks, further experiments showed that the marks made were intentional, and that the bone had most likely been boiled first to make it softer and easier to carve. This shows how early on humans were creating what could be called art, with the detailing being deliberate and complex, and it's a tragedy that so much of this has been lost to time. The story goes back even further, because what researchers found near the same area in 1990 will shock you. Number 3, hominin weaponry. Before the bone carving was found, archaeologists were already uncovering nearby sites, and in 1990 they discovered something truly remarkable. Perfectly preserved weapons, artifacts, and bones were uncovered that were approximately 300,000 years old, and that is absolutely insane to me. Ancient throwing sticks, push lances, and other tools were found, some of which scientists have yet to still divine the function of. Closer examination showed how the weapons had worn from use, and that told researchers what they were used for and how often. There were even marks in some of them that seemed to have been made from chipping bone. Now, who knows if that was from an animal or another early human? It's almost impossible to tell. But the fact that these exist at all is amazing to me. Number 2, the headless horse, man. The legend of the Headless Horseman is well known around the world, and many cultures have their own version of the story of a headless rider on a dark horse come to do evil. But in Germany, they seem to have gotten it mixed around. In an ancient cemetery near Knittlingen, archaeologists revealed a perplexing discovery. In a 1400...
Archaeologists?
How do you take 20,000 children in the middle of New York City without anybody seeing? They are being...
Starting our list off at number 10, Tyson fight glitch. Alright, this one takes place in 1995, and it may be a glitch, but it also could be a time traveler. Who knows? Both are always fun. This video is from a Mike Tyson fight, and while Tyson is of course the star and center of attention in this entire video, there is a person in the audience who has us scratching our heads when we look back and watch. This fight, like I said, takes place in 1995, but when you peek into the audience, it appears as though someone is taking their own video on a cell phone or some sort of smartphone. This gadget that they're holding doesn't look like most cameras from the time and very closely resembles our smartphone cameras from today, with, you know, the lens not being in the center but more off to the side. Imagine having this video on your phone in 1995. You're like, hi, World Star, I'd like to deposit a video. It's gonna get me a lot of views. It's great. It's a really good one. Number 9, the reflection glitch. This video comes from TikTok, of course, and it shows one very confused driver in traffic. Yeah, this is more than fair. This man started filming in a car that was slightly ahead of him in the next lane because he noticed something was off. Again, I wouldn't advise you to pull out your phone and start filming while you're driving, but luckily we got this video. The man is in a convertible and his reflection can be seen in one of his side mirrors. That's very normal. But you can also see that the man is moving his head around in this car, which is normal. But what isn't normal is the fact that his reflection is not moving along with him. So, could be a vampire, could be a shapeshifter, could be a ghost. I have no idea. It's really one of those things that you have to see to believe. Check it out. Number 8, plane glitch. Planes are wild. I have no idea how they work at all. They stay up there somehow, okay? Sometimes they just look like they're floating on the exact same spot, and it's so trippy. But this one here, this one is pretty weird. This video comes from Moscow, and it shows what looks like a plane completely stuck in mid-air. Like, really stuck. Check it out. Imagine just casually driving down the road and then you saw this just frozen in the sky. I would think so many scary things. I guess the only appropriate response here would be to capture it on video, because how else would you tell a coworker about this? You know what I mean? Without sounding crazy. I'm gonna assume that this is some sort of optical illusion or some sort of wind trick here, but it's just very strange to see a plane that is that close to the ground that isn't either ascending or descending. It's just kind of there. Is it possible that the clear skies made it more difficult to see the movement of the plane? I don't know. Someone help me out in the comments down below, because I can't sleep.
Next on the list we have An Extra Life. This one was snagged right off of Reddit, and it's a pretty strange story. A Redditor talked about the time that their dog passed away. This is a very sad moment in anyone's life, but it's something that all pet owners must face. All of us will most likely outlive our pets. But here's something very strange that happened afterwards. They were sad for some time, but then they saw some signs around town about some dogs that were up for adoption. And one of the dogs in the photo looked just like their dog that had just passed away, but it was a younger version. They immediately called the person selling off these pups and they rushed over. They said it was like an instant connection, like their dog that had just passed away was brought back to them. Now, this was probably just a coincidence, but it might have been the Matrix reloading an old save file, so this person didn't feel so sad losing their dog. Next on the list, we have the helicopter. Here's something that had everyone scratching their heads. Here's a video of a helicopter taking off without the blades moving. If you were to tell me that this video was real, I would just think that it was in the early stages of animation, and someone hadn't got to the propeller yet, or this whole thing was being lifted by a crane. That would seem like the most logical answer. But apparently this thing is actually flying. The official statement is that the shutter speed of the camera matches the propeller speed, so it looks like it's not moving. Or was this a glitch caught on camera? I mean, it looks super trippy, and it looks like the most standard glitch that you could see in a video game. So was this a real life glitch, just like a game, or was it the shutter speed thing? I mean, we all know that it's the shutter speed thing, but it's still fun to think about it. Next on the list, we have a palette swap. You know some games will randomly generate characters, so sometimes you can get some creatures that seem to be very similar to one another. And right here we have a palette swap on the subway that makes these characters seem very alike. So when you look at these guys, it seems pretty strange that they both have boss sweaters on that match the other person's hair, and these aren't standard hair colors. One dude has bright orange hair, the other guy has green hair. How do you get a mix-up like that unless the software that Elon Musk says runs the world goes a little bit haywire? Next on the list, we have Baldy. So if two people who look the same way wasn't enough to make you think that there could be some glitches in the Matrix, then let me show you this. What about 5 bald dudes on the bus all sitting in a row? Now, I know that's very common for men to lose their hair as they get older, but what were these bus dudes up to? It looks like they're all in a club for dudes who have a cul-de-sac haircut. What are the chances of these dudes all being lined up so perfectly? Thank God we have cameras on us all the time now so we can catch stuff like this and watch it. Who cares about the Matrix when it comes to gold like this? This one was just fun. Next on the list, we have Seeing the Matrix. This is what it's all about, am I right? This is what the people want to be able to do. You want to be able to see the Matrix and see the code passing by your eyes so you can work through it, so you can manipulate it, so you can become a god among men and ascend to Olympus to live among Zeus and the other immortals. Well, there was one person on Reddit who might have had a glitch happen to them that allowed them to see time and space itself. This person said it started as a headache. They would get this weird pain in the back of the head before they would go to bed. And while they were sleeping, they would have vivid dreams. It only took them a couple days, but they realized that these dreams were becoming reality. There were key moments throughout their day that they had foreseen, and they started to use this to their advantage. They would know when something bad was going to happen and they could avoid it. Or there was one point where they knew to buy a lottery ticket that would give them $1,000. But the headaches were getting worse, and eventually this led to them having a seizure. They were taken to the hospital, and after this, a doctor gave them an MRI on their head, but they found nothing. And then the pain stopped.
I wanted to be marine biologist.
Vision stopped. Next on the list, we have the mirror doesn't match. We all understand what a mirror does and what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to reflect our image.
You can still do it now.
How does this happen? Okay, how on earth does that happen? We clearly see that the movement between these two images is off. It looks like there's a delay or whatever that's supposed to be happening on the mirror is glitching out. I'm sure that if someone jumps into the comments right now, they can break down why this is normal, but until that happens, this one is still freaking me out. And coming into the #1 spot, we have Elon Musk. I think you all know this man's name because he just became the richest man in the world. He is the face of the powerhouse company known as Tesla, who's been seeing their stock shoot through the roof. He's also the mind behind SpaceX, the company that wants to take us to the stars and plop us right on Mars to start a new life out there. I don't know how I feel about living on Mars. It's not the most exciting thing to me. I'll stay down here with all the chaos we already have. Now, what Elon has also talked about is how he thinks that we're all living in a simulation, that everything is planned out mathematically, and through this, it is proof that everything is running on a program. It's up to you whether or not you want to believe him. Simulation theory sounds to me like a modern version of religion. Everyone is constantly searching for an explanation for our existence. But if you're able to become the richest and one of the most powerful people in the world, then you might know what a couple of the hacks are.
Starting off this list, in our #10 spot, we have this car chase glitch. This video was caught on a police dash cam and shows something pretty unexplainable. The police officer is on a
If
car
it was
chase
big,
with
it
the
was a girl. If
perpetrator.
it was small,
The criminal
it
is
was
doing
a
his
man.
best to evade the police
then
and
that was a female.
continually fakes pulling over to then
The-
quickly turn around.
if
He's
it's
going
insects,
pretty crazy,
females big
swerving
as
all
fuck.
over the
And
road,
males
which
are
is
tiny.
both
When it comes to
confusing
mammals,
and strange.
males are
But
big and
this
females
is
are
when
small.
things really take a weird
when I-
turn. He takes a turn towards a fence, and this is when something that I can't understand happens. It would appear
that I could bring to that.
YouTube is the #1 site for millions of creators online, but as more people flood to the platform, it's getting harder for your content to stand out from the crowd. That's where Sprizzy can help.
I'm so scared, but
Meet Tim.
Here is though this man somehow drove through a fence that was left with no holes and then just basically disappeared into the night. I honestly can't figure out what happened here, but this guy must have been extremely lucky, or something more sinister was going on. In our number 9 spot today, we have this bird glitch. This glitch comes from a Reddit user called AmorXP00 from a time they captured some birds behaving very strangely. I'll just let you take a look at it first, and then we can discuss.
You know, there's even a story that one online where they have a killer whale in captivity all alone. Shit breaks my fucking heart. Like,
the homie be talking about them, and like he they trying to petition to get him out.
When I first watched this,
The
I
other one died.
100%
He's
thought it
just
was
sitting there
photoshopped. I truly could not believe what I was seeing because there is just no way. From the coordination of the flying all the way to the ripples of color changes, I thought this was just made up or truly a huge glitch in the Matrix. As it turns out, there's actually an explanation for this.
Yeah.
This is called a murmur and is basically a defensive posture that birds take. It truly is one of the coolest things I have ever seen, and there are more videos of it that you can look up because it is fascinating. I feel like I would be the one bird who just didn't get the new choreo memo because this looks intricate. In our number 8 spot today, we have people frozen in time. In September of 2019, a Buffalo, New York resident caught this extremely eerie and uncomfortable glitch in the Matrix. A woman was driving past a park when she needed to take out her camera and record what was going on because it truly is so bizarre. A bunch of people in a park were completely frozen still. And it wasn't like one group of people in the park who were just trying to do something. It was every single person that was there. Maybe there was some kind of weird piece of performance art that involved a lot of people or something, because that is the only explanation that I can think of.
Hey, Don.
Do you see what I mean by this just being the creepiest thing? I just can't shake the bad feeling that this video gives me.
Number 7, another plane glitch. This video comes from a flight to Edinburgh, which is a flight that I've done many times myself. It's beautiful. The passenger began taking a video of the propeller on the side of the plane when they caught this strange glitch in the Matrix. More than fair. This propeller is of course moving, or else, well, we'd probably know, but it appears as though it is not. How fun is that? It's a fun, scary optical illusion when you're thousands of feet into the air. This is due to the speed of the propeller and the camera's shutter speed, you know, being synchronized, looking a little bit funky. Now we see this often with helicopters, but to see it in a plane that high up from your point of view, that's a bit different. That's a bit more jarring. Number 6, Yanni and Laurel. Remember this Yanni Laurel thing back in 2018? I'm still talking about it. It still f***ed me up. I heard Yanni for like 2 weeks, and then one day I listened back, and then it was Laurel all of a sudden, and then my life changed forever. Couldn't go back. This got everybody talking. What is this phenomenon that happens? Is this a glitch in the Matrix? How can you hear one thing and then a completely different sound moments later? The dress fiasco as well. Black and blue, white and gold. We see it often. What the hell is actually happening here?
Laurel. 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 Laurel.
While many believe that these viral illusions are proof that we're living in a simulation. And while these arguments are fun, they really just prove that we perceive reality in our own individual way. Everybody is living an individually perceived reality, so sometimes it doesn't align across the board. Sometimes I hear Laurel while you hear Yanni. And now I can't go back, and now I always hear that stuck in my head. It's just Laurel. God, I hated this. Number 5, rain glitch. This one comes from Paris, when a man decided to take this video one day when the weather was acting up. Anytime you film weather, you always know it's gonna be be a bad time. First of all, it's not abnormal for rain to hit one part of a city while other parts stay dry with clear skies. I've been there before. It's trippy, it's kind of fun, whatever. But this one here, this one takes the cake. It's just raining in one spot. Like literally one specific spot, one tiny spot is absolutely getting poured down on, seemingly out of nowhere. But everywhere else is not. It's just a casual, nice day. Now at first I thought that maybe someone from above was pouring water, maybe, because that's what people do, I guess, in their spare time. But the video does pan up and you see nothing above this random rainfall, so we can check that off our boxes. If there's a scientific explanation for this, please tell me in the comments, because again, I have no idea what's going on here. I can't help you. All I have to say is hit the thumbs up, you know, all that good shit, but a scientist, please help me in the comments. Number 4, manhole cover glitch. I'm not sure if these have the same name in every country or whatever, but this video is in reference to a manhole cover. You know those really heavy metal lids that go on top of holes on the ground that leads to sewers? I don't know. Mario stomps on them in Mario Sunshine, and then he pops up somewhere else in the city. Those. They're designed to be extremely heavy, so of course people can't just waltz into the sewer systems whenever they feel like it, which is probably a good thing. This isn't the Victorian era anymore, we don't want to be down there. But this video would make it seem like otherwise. This video is very short, but it shows one of these covers just bouncing up and down as though it's 1, lightweight, and 2, there's air coming up from underneath it, just bouncing it around. It would take a lot of air to do this, considering the typical cover weighs 250 pounds. This reminds me of the end of As Above, So Below. That's a terrifying movie. I don't want to see that moving around at all. Thank you. Number 3, people frozen in time. In September 2019, a Buffalo, New York resident caught this extremely eerie and uncomfortable glitch in the Matrix. A woman was driving past a park when she needed to take out her camera and record what was going on because it looked that messed up. I mean, fair, more than fair. A bunch of people in the park were just completely frozen still. They were just like, out of nowhere. And it wasn't like a group of people in the park who were doing like a social experiment or like some sort of weird piece of performance art, anything like that involved a lot of people or something being completely still. I don't know, it's like a flash mob that doesn't move. Is that a thing? That's the only explanation that I can think of. A flash mob that doesn't dance or move. They're like 3, 2, 1. The most boring flash mob on the planet. It reminds me of the scene in Logan when everybody's stuck. That's terrifying. That's a situation you don't want to be part of. That's not good. Yeah, do you see what I mean by this being the creepiest video ever? Everyone's just stuck, standing where they are. What's going on here? Have you seen this? Someone tell me. I need answers. Down there. I need answers right now. And photos of Spider-Man. Number 2, are birds real? Apparently there's a huge thing going on right now where people don't believe that birds are real. There's thousands of people who are gathering outside and protesting against birds. I don't know what's going on. This glitch comes from a Reddit user called AmerXPOO from the time that they captured some birds behaving very strangely. So think what you want, but I think birds are real. Whatever. I'll let you take a look at the clip first and then we'll talk shop afterwards. When I first watched this, I 100% thought that it was photoshopped. I truly cannot believe that I was seeing this because there's just no way, right? From what you're seeing, these are animals. From the coordination of the flying all the way to the ripples of the color changes, I thought this was fake the entire time. It's not. As it turns out, this is actually perfectly explainable. This is called a murmur, and it basically is a defensive posture that birds take. Truly one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, hence why I thought that it was unbelievable. And there are more videos of it that you can actually look up, and I implore you to because it's fascinating. This is like bird choreography. This is next level. People don't believe that birds are real, and videos like this make me agree.
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything online. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first. Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop prices automatically. I can show you how, but I can't do it for you. People are saving real money doing this.
Yeah, fair. 1 point for the bird Gryffindor. Are seagulls real? Pigeons aren't real. Pigeons are fucking weird. And finally, number 1, twins named Jim. Back in 1979, a set of twins were reunited. They were 39 at the time, and this was of course a big moment in their lives because for 37 years they barely knew of each other's existence. Yeah, that's pretty sad. When they did finally meet, the long-lost twins had more in common than anybody ever thought. For starters, both had been named Jim. I spoiled that one in the fun title there. But both of these Jims, they loved math and carpentry. Okay. Both also had jobs in security. Okay. Their ex-wives were both named Linda. Okay. And they've since both married a woman named Betty. That's so many coincidences, I have no idea what's going on. Imagine meeting another you and he's like, oh yeah, I love knitting and Autobots. What are the odds? No way, that's way too eerie. That's a glitch in the Matrix or an alien clone. Something's not right here. I don't know. I'm glad you guys found each other, but maybe you weren't supposed to. Know what I mean? I've seen some movies. I've seen Black Mirror. That's all I'm saying.
Coming in number 10, we have the invisible car crash. Now, there are tons of ways to explain real-life glitches. When you see someone lag on camera, that could have just been the recording. When you see a plane stalled in the sky, like we had on our last video, that could be explained through some clever editing. But I don't really know how you fake a car crash like the one I'm about to show you. Yeah, you guys just saw what I just saw, right? That was a car that was crashing into nothing. There was a car that was zooming along the highway, and then it smacked into an invisible barrier. Now, this could have been some hole in the road that was angled so perfectly that the driver and the camera couldn't see it. Now, that is possible, but highly unlikely. How could something that thin and small be strong enough to cause a moving car that's going about 60 kilometers an hour to stop in its tracks? Was there some sort of invisible force field there that was left on by accident? Or could this just be someone spending hours editing something strange to put out as disinformation to make us all very confused? Either way, I would be pissed if I was the owner of that car. You don't do anything wrong, and then something invisible causes your car to be a write-off? Is that even covered under your insurance? Coming at number 9, we have sailing in the sky. If you have it in your mind that you will never reach the level of wealth to afford a sailboat, well, let me tell you that there's a whole other level of wealth that we have no idea about. There is a class of people who have been taking their boats to the skies. Aren't we all seeing that right now? I have no idea how reflections off the water will affect your camera and how it will pick that up, but that looks like someone got their boat to fly through the sky at a very reasonable pace. I mean, that boat is just cruising along, not too fast or slow. Sky sailing is a brand new thing, and this guy has already mastered it, but how on earth is that happening? Is there some new boat-shaped plane that we don't know about? I mean, that does sound like something that Elon Musk would make. Tesla has a car that looks like a tank, and now they have a plane that looks like a boat. Coming in number 8, we have teleporting, time traveling, or NPC. I would imagine that sometime in the future we will lock down teleportation. I don't know if time travel is on the table, but who knows? If we went back 100 years and got someone to eat Korean fried chicken, they might have an overdose from all the flavor. But if people are working on it, you would imagine it would take some time to work out all the kinks. In this next clip, we might be seeing the early stages of people glitching reality so they can teleport. You see, that massive truck had to swerve out of the way so that they didn't crash into that lady. Some random woman appeared out of nowhere, and it looks like she has a perfectly clean lab coat on. I mean, I don't know how someone would end up walking around in the middle of the highway miles away from any town, but they usually don't dress like they came right out of the lab. She seems so calm even though she was almost hit by a truck. Usually when a 16-wheeler has to swerve out of the way so it doesn't crash into me, I wet my jeans just a little bit. But she's just strolling like she knew she was going to be safe, or she's a poorly programmed NPC.
In our number 7 spot today, we have this manhole cover glitch.
On Earth is this one bouncing around so madly, so freely, as if it's as light as a feather.
I'm not sure if these have the same names in every country, but this video is in reference to a manhole cover. You know those really heavy metal lids that go on top of the holes that lead to the sewer? They're designed to be extremely heavy so that people can't just waltz into the sewer system whenever they feel like, which is probably a good thing, but this video would make it seem otherwise. This video is very short, but it shows one of these covers basically just bouncing up and down as if it is lightweight and there's air coming up from underneath it. It would take a lot of air to do this, considering the typical cover weighs 113 kilos or 249 pounds. It makes it seem like something is down there pushing up on it, but what could be strong enough? And also, why is anyone in there at all? And also, shouldn't someone be helping if there really is someone down there? This is all to say, I really cannot explain this one, so it truly must be a glitch in the simulation of our reality. In our number 6 spot today, we have this rain glitch. This video was taken by a man in Paris when the weather was acting unlike anything I have ever seen. It's not abnormal for rain to hit one part of a city while the other part has clear skies, but this takes that one step further. The skies are cloudy, so it's not completely abnormal to see rain, but it is just raining in one spot. One tiny spot is absolutely pouring rain, seemingly out of nowhere, but everywhere else is not raining. At first I thought that maybe someone from up above is pouring water, but the video does pan up for you to see nothing above this random rainfall. If there is a scientific explanation for this, please leave it in the comments because this one is honestly unbelievable. In our number 5 spot today, we have this propeller glitch. This video comes from a flight to Edinburgh. A passenger began taking a video of the propeller on the side of the plane when they caught this strange glitch in the matrix. This propeller is of course moving, or at least we all hope it is, but it appears as if it isn't. This is most likely due to the speed of the propeller and the camera not being able to pick up its speed, but man does this video make it look strange. The video has this weird effect where it looks like it's almost sped up or something. It's super strange how it appears as though the propeller is moving either up or down based on the direction he moves the phone. Definitely a cool but very strange video that you could definitely use to freak your friends out. In our number 4 spot today, we have this plane glitch. This video comes from Moscow and shows what looks like a plane completely stuck in the air. This is of course impossible, so you can understand everyone's disbelief when they first see this video. Imagine just casually driving down the road and witnessing this. I guess the only appropriate response would be to capture it on video, because how else would you explain this to anyone else? I'm going to assume that this is some sort of optical illusion, but it is just very strange to see a plane that is that close to the ground that isn't either ascending or descending. It is possible that the clear skies made it more difficult to see the movement of the plane, but whatever really happened here, it definitely is strange. In our number 3 spot today, we have this reflection glitch. This video comes from TikTok and shows a very confused driver in traffic. This man started filming a car that was slightly ahead of him in the next lane when he noticed something was really off. The man is in a convertible and his reflection can be seen in one of the side mirrors. You can see this man moving his head around in his car, which is normal because he is of course a human being, but what isn't normal is the fact that his reflection is not moving along with him. It really is one of those things you have to see.
But it's taken me a little bit, but I'm starting to get there now. Now I'm feeling like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing. Now I understand how the level up process goes. I get the rank up process. I'm getting the gear, you know, all that.
To believe.
Right? And his face is moving, but look at that, his face just moved, but the guy in the mirror is seeing the same. Yo! The Matrix is broken.
You guys, this one was a weird glitch, and if it wasn't a glitch, the only other explanation I have is that maybe he's a ghost. Either way, something weird is happening over there. In our number 2 spot today, we have this Tyson fight glitch. This one takes place in 1995, and it may be a glitch, but it also could be a time traveler. This video is from a Mike Tyson fight, and while Tyson is of course the star of the video, there is a person in the audience who caught everyone's attention, and for a good reason. This fight, like I said, took place in 1995, but when you peek into the audience, it appears as though someone is taking their own video with what looks like a smartphone. This gadget that they are holding doesn't look like most cameras for the time and very closely resembles our smartphone cameras, with the lens not being in the center but more off to the side. kind of difficult to see, but did you guys see that person on the left? I honestly don't know what to make of it or really how to explain this one. In our number 1 spot today, we have this dance battle glitch. This video shows some kind of dance battle, which I am absolutely here for until things get a little weird. It is a b-boy style dance-off, and one kid is wearing a red hat, which he throws into the audience. Shortly after he throws the hat, he is doing some breakdancing on the floor when the red hat literally reappears out of nowhere. This kid is not only a great dancer, but also apparently a magician, because how the heck does this even happen? I honestly watched this video probably 20 times trying to figure out how and when this could have happened, but I am absolutely stumped.
Coming in number 10, we have The Water is Broken. We all know how water is supposed to flow. We know what water is. It always flows downwards. It's usually in a smooth motion unless it's crashing like a massive wave. We all know that Bruce Lee video. And it stays together. Like it can splash, but it's not going to float through the air in separate pieces. Well, then someone please explain to me how this could happen. There is clearly something off here. Whoever's in charge of the code of this part of the world needs to get over here right now because things are falling apart. The water is floating in midair, and if I look at that for too much longer, my brain is going to break in half. Like, is water that does that even safe to drink? Or if I drink it, is the water that makes up my body going to start to drift apart and I'll float away? Will my body rip apart like someone put C4 up my butt like in Man on Fire? If you guys have not seen Man on Fire, you should go check out that movie right now because it is amazing. Shout out to Denzel Washington. And guys, make sure that you hit that like button because it really helps us out. Coming at number 9, we have Somebody Restart Shaq. This one might be the most famous one on the list because it involves one of the most famous people in the world. We all know Shaquille O'Neal for his amazing sports commentary, for his hilarious show Shaq Versus, and probably for his biggest accomplishment being in a movie where he was a genie. Also, don't forget about the video game Shaq Fu. Well, with that many accomplishments, is Shaq who he is because he worked his butt off to be the best? Or is it because he was programmed? Well, if he is part of the fabric of this simulation, then someone needs to restart him. Check out this clip. He's stuck there like a loading screen. Maybe it was the guy watching this as TV. Maybe the image on his TV froze for a moment, so it made it seem like Shaq couldn't move. Or this dude is part of the Matrix, and if you manage to get out of the Matrix, he is Agent Smith. Someone please tell me that Shaq is the villain in the 4th Matrix movie. That would really make my life so much better. Coming in number 8, we have Goodbye Snow. This next glitch looks like it was pulled right out of a James Bond movie. I mean, it just happened so perfectly, you would think that this SUV has some sort of camouflage tech, and I don't think that comes with the standard model. You might need to upgrade to the S series for that one. Well, what we're about to see is an SUV driving along the road, and then all of a sudden there's snow that starts to fly off the top of the car, and it almost completely vanishes.
But otherwise nothing out of the ordinary here. But these glitches seem to come when we least expect them. Slowly but surely the car appears to fade away. Slowly but surely it is consumed by the snowflakes.
You all saw what I just saw, right? This thing was there and then it was gone. Now the logical answer is that the car was there and then it sped up, which caused the snow on top of the car to fly off, which then caused low visibility so you couldn't see it as it drove away. But even the taillights disappear. I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but there might be some alien tech in that family-sized car. That seems like the most logical explanation. Next on the list we have Brady Fiegel Squared. There are a lot of people in this world who say they have found their twin. I'm looking at you, David Diggs. If I get tagged in one more picture of you, I'm gonna have to chase you down and take a side-by-side picture so people know we're not the same person. But even though David Diggs and I kinda look the same, we have nowhere close to the same similarities as Brady Fiegel and Brady Fiegel. For one, both these guys have the exact same name. On top of that, they both play professional baseball. On top of that, they are both left-handed pitchers. This seems pretty rare, and you would expect this to be the point where the similarities end, well, guess what? There's more. For one, they both look almost identical. They both have had the same surgery from the same doctor, and they even dress similar, wearing the same glasses. It would seem that the random person generator that populates this planet with people might have glitched and made two copies of the same dude. People thought that they might have been long-lost twins that were separated at birth. A DNA test showed that that wasn't true, but they did have the same German ancestry. Coming in next on the list, we have the cat reflection. I don't know what kind of software is going into making the mirrors in our giant simulation world, but it would seem that this is a place ripe for glitches. Oh, and just so we're clear, I'm not a believer in simulation theory. I just like playing along with the theme for this list. But even though I think that everything can be explained logically, this next clip is a little trippy. The CPU that is in charge of getting everything running must have been putting the computing power somewhere else when this went off. I mean, that would be a good sign to tell if you are an important person if you think simulation theory is real. Like, if this is indeed a simulation, I'm going to play with this idea for a moment, and there are a bunch of glitches around you, that would mean that the universal computing power is being used somewhere else on more important and interesting people. So, if you see those glitches, that's your...
You still winning big at Chumba Casino?
Absolutely. Have you signed up yet?
Is it for real?
Of course. It's more real than that Rolex. Plus, oh, it's free to sign up. And then you can play hundreds of games anytime, anywhere.
That was easy.
Over 1 million players would agree with you.
Oh, jackpot!
Winner, winner!
Team Huddle in 5.
Thanks, Steve-O.
Play now at Chumba Casino.
Time to step up your game because your life is boring. Next on the list, we have Mark Zuck is a Matrix program. If there's anyone that could be a lizard person or a robot or an alien or some sort of simulation-based software person that has been put into the world to control us and cause havoc, it would be Mark Zuckerberg. And there have been several moments where people have caught this poor excuse for an alien trying to be a human acting weird. But this one has to be my favorite.
You need to focus and try not to let stuff bother you as much as possible. But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human, still.
The Zuck was caught red-handed saying that he wasn't a human. That has to be one of the most obvious glitches ever. The programmers would have been like, who's in charge of writing the script for Zuckerberg, and why did you make him act like a robot and make references to not being human because you're blowing our cover big time? I mean, let's say in the next few years there's a massive revolution and we get into a bunch of secret files about which famous people living among us are aliens and which ones are humans. I would be more surprised to find out that this guy is actually fully human. Next on the list, we have the rain spot. I mean, we all hate bad weather, so I think many of us would prefer if we could condense it into one spot and have everything else nice all the time. Well, I guess there must have been a trial run for some new rain patches because that's what we got here. It would seem that for some reason the clouds in that area have glitched out and the rain is pouring down in only one spot. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Now that has to be some sort of glitch or the plot to a children's book called The Loneliest Rain Cloud. A book about a cloud that is rainy all the time, but all the other clouds around him are nice, so he has no friends. And he travels around everywhere trying to make friends, but everyone runs from him because they don't want to get wet. Someone get my publicist on the phone because I have a book to write. Next on the list, guys, we have the smartphone time traveler. One of the wildest things ever caught on camera is the footage from a Mike Tyson fight that looks like there's someone filming the fight in the background. The reason that this is so weird is because the footage is from 1995, and even though there were some phones back then that could have been considered smartphones, there was nothing released that had a camera on it. That wouldn't be released for another 5 years. And when you look at the footage, it seems like that phone is a very modern smartphone. Now, this could have been some device that simply looks like a phone, and people have been making the case to say that this is in fact a smartphone so they can argue that time travel is real, but really we have no idea what happened here. We have no idea who was recording this Mike Tyson fight with this mysterious device. Next on the list, guys, we have a plane vanishes. Now, there have been a lot of reports of all sorts of stuff like this. Like, apparently all of the alien stuff that happened in Roswell, New Mexico, that was all faked by the government because they were testing out experimental aircrafts, and they decided that making people think that aliens were real was safer than telling them what the military was up to. So what you're about to see might be some secret government aircraft caught on camera, or it might be a glitch. I mean, you all saw what I just saw, right? There was a plane there, and then it was gone. Everyone was focused on it. It was in the sky, and then it blinked out of existence like half the people in Avengers Infinity War. Also, random question for the comments. Would you rather be one of the people who blinked out of existence when Thanos snapped his fingers and then came back 3 years later to a whole new world, or would you have rather been there the whole time and lived through the whole thing and saw the world post-snap? Well, whoever was on the plane seems like they didn't have a choice in disappearing, because now they are for sure gone. Unless the sky is all a massive projection and that was just a glitch on one of the screens. And coming in at the #1 spot, we have the Pope vanishes. Now, I will start off by saying I have no idea what the Pope does and what his powers are. Can he fly? Can he control the weather? Does he have telekinesis? I never went to church, so I don't know. So the clip that went viral of him vanishing about a year ago might be one of his holy powers, or it was a glitch that no one was supposed to see. Let's take a look. That was something that was seen from the Pope's balcony as he was addressing people about the COVID-19 pandemic. After his speech was done, he just vanished, and there were several news outlets that showed the exact same thing. So this wasn't just a broadcast that screwed up. Some say this might have been a hologram of the Pope because he was actually isolating somewhere and didn't want to catch the virus. I mean, we know that hologram tech is real. Most of us have seen that massive Tupac hologram that came out years ago. And if anyone has access to the latest and greatest hologram tech, it has to be the Pope.
What the fuck? What? Wow, we're starting off strong with this one. Where did that come? Wow. Cool. I wish dogs would just appear in front of me like that all the time. That'd be great. I'd be so much happier. I'd be like, come on, let's go, let's do it.
Coffee, Smith? I'm not drinking coffee. I'm just testing. See, if you were a liar, you might say you were enjoying
Then just disappears.
Maybe you just disappears. Who are you and why do you
I love they're watching Family Guy in the background, I think, or it's American Dad. That's super strange. That's super strange. This is gonna be one of those videos that haunts me forever. That's so weird. And I know a lot of things can be done on camera now because of the technology that we have, but it's so hard. Like, that's just the, wow, that show. I'm gonna forget the name of the show. Anyway, insert sci-fi show name here. That is what that is.
These two complete strangers stood next to each other utterly randomly, yet both seem to have the exact same legs. It's not just the color and design of the pants, though that certainly helps, but everything about their legs seems to sync up. If you were to only look at the bottom half of this photo, you'd probably think that there had just been a computer error and each half of the photo was identical, and yet the top half of each woman is individual.
I just love the narration sometimes, and I know that's kind of ironic considering that's what I do now for a living, but this would freak me out. Like, I've never actually shown to a party and had the same outfit as someone, which is kind of cool, I guess, being a jeans and t-shirt kind of gal. That should happen more often than it does. Anyway, whatever. That would freak me out. That's super, super cool, but I hope this was a wonderful moment for the two women in this video. I hope they were like, oh my god, girl, I didn't know. I thought I was the only one, as opposed to like the mean reaction, which is like, you can't wear those pants. I'm wearing those pants. Which happened in middle school all the time. Anyways. Hey guys, it's Rachel Fisher back again with Most Amazing Top 10, and I'm so happy to be here. Today we're doing another reaction video of top 10 glitches in the Matrix caught on camera. So, I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people that has a bunch of deja vu and wonders, okay, that must be it. I am the chosen one. Maybe that's it. Or that's just because I just want something beautiful and amazing to happen. Anyways, let's keep going.
There's an argument to be had that it's just pressurized air pushing against the manhole cover, making it bounce around. But that would have to be some seriously pressurized air to push something that heavy up and down. More pressure than a kid in the midst of their SATs. That's how much pressure we're talking. It's so lively, so free. It's almost as if the manhole cover has the mind of a puppy.
It's so lively, so free. Wow, amazing. That's hilarious. I love how he compares that to a kid going through the SATs. That's kind of the cherry on top for me. I kind of believe it. I don't know what happens in gutters. My mind's not in the gutter. I don't know. That could have been an alligator. I hope it wasn't an alligator, but it could have been just a really bad plumbing backup.
Yo, this bird is stuck in midair, bro. This bird is trying to fly, but it's stuck. Oh, shit.
Wow.
The bird got stuck in time. Look, no lie, bro. What the
Dude, the wind must be so strong. That's actually what I blame that on. That's not necessarily a glitch, I think. That's just like, the bird has hit a wind draft that's just so strong that has finally just equated the bird's strength itself. Like, it can't actually fly through it. You just gotta land and chill out for a minute because there's no way. That poor thing, how tiring would that be? That's like somebody, like, it's like one of those infinity pools, but for birds.
Coming in at number 7, we have the cup dance. Okay, this one is supposed to be someone's sound system making a paper cup float. And I gotta